Chapter 132. That slash seemed to have severed everyone's minds. Wang Jianxing's body stiffened, and his hand that was holding the sword trembled. Cold sweat trickled down his face. There was no way he could have dodged that slash. The scariest thing was that he did not even see the slash's trajectory clearly. Drip, drip. Bright red blood splattered on the limestone floor. Yuan Fei's face was pale. There was a wound on his chest that extended from his left shoulder to his abdomen. He looked at Lin Xian in horror, only to find that the latter had turned around and walked away expressionlessly. Lin Xian. Yuan Fei clenched his fist and growled. Ever since he defeated Wang Jianxing, he had looked down on sword cultivators. He thought that any sword cultivator who went against him would lose without a doubt. However, Lin Xian's slash told him how terrifying sword cultivators were. If it was a battle of life and death, he would have died by now. After a long while, the martial artists nearby finally reacted. Many of them were excited. Too amazing. I wonder if he can enter the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon Roll? Many of the disciples were excited. If such a genius appeared in Yunzhou, they would be proud too. Top 100? Wang Jianxing muttered. No one knew what he was thinking. In the next few days, more and more people entered the blood-colored palace and began to search for treasures. There were people everywhere, but only a few managed to obtain treasures. As time passed, the crowd gradually came to the depths of the palace. The surrounding atmosphere became oppressive, as if there was an invisible force that shrouded the area. Although the atmosphere became more solemn, the treasures were also more precious. All kinds of rare treasures appeared, making it difficult for people to resist. Lin Xian kept running, feeling more and more shocked. The palace was huge. Not only were there all kinds of buildings, but there were also caves and secret rooms. It was like a small world. Of course, the most intense place was the main hall. There were 3 dazzling treasures that attracted everyone's attention. Around the 3 treasures, there were colorful seals that kept the crowd outside. Almost 70% of the disciples were gathered here. Their eyes were burning with excitement, as if they had seen a beauty bathing. Lin Xian retracted his aura and blended into the crowd, silently observing. He realized that Murong Qianling, Zhang Jun, Xie Changfeng, and the others were not here. Instead, Yuan Fei, Wang Jianxing, and some people from the 4 great clans were here. Among them, he found the disciples of the Ling family. 4 of them were gathered together with fanatical expressions on their faces. Lin Xian sneered in his heart. Of the 10 people from the Ling clan who came in, half of them had died at his hands. Of course, this was the result of their own actions. If you want to kill someone, you have to be prepared to be killed. He did not attack immediately. Instead, he waited quietly in the crowd. The 3 treasures in the sky were constantly floating, emitting incomparable rays of light. Lin Xian activated his purple spirit eyes and observed carefully. Then, disappointment appeared in his eyes. Among the 3 treasures, there were no swords, but other weapons. His red flame sword was essentially a support-type weapon. Lord Alcohol had once told him that the red flame sword's effects were reflected in cultivation and array formations. He had already experienced 10-fold gravity during his cultivation, which had benefited him greatly. As for the rest, he would have to wait for his cultivation to increase before he could use them. What he lacked now was a good offensive sword. Among the 3 treasures, there was a light purple armor with complicated patterns on it. The one on the left was a long spear. Its entire body was red, and the spearhead was suffused with cold light. It was like a dragon from the abyss that was about to soar into the sky. On the right was a long saber. Its beautiful arc was like a crescent moon, mesmerizing people. I wonder what grade these 3 treasures are. Lin Xian was curious. Although he did not have a long sword, if he could obtain one, the benefits would undoubtedly be huge. Regardless of whether it was an exchange or an auction, he would be able to obtain a considerable amount of wealth. Lord Alcohol narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, all 3 of them are mystic rank treasures. They are completely sufficient for the spiritual sea realm. Treasures were divided into 5 ranks: human, mystic, spirit, earth, and heaven. Each rank was further divided into 3 grades: high, low, and high. Among them, earth and heaven grades were almost impossible to find, as if they only existed in legends. Currently, the highest grade treasures were spirit grade. As long as it was a treasure of a sect, it would be difficult for ordinary people to obtain it. For example, mid-mystic rank treasures, if placed outside, would tempt even some elders. The light purple armor in the middle is of the highest grade. It's a mid-mystic rank treasure. The other two are low mystic rank treasures, said Lord Alcohol. How does the purple armor compare to the one I'm wearing? Asked Lin Xian. The grade of yours is clearly higher, and the technique used is more brilliant. The flaw is that it's too fast, and most of its functions are lost. As for the purple armor in the air, although the material and technique used are ordinary, it's still in perfect condition. Overall, they're about the same. Lord Alcohol analyzed. Lin Xian's eyes emitted an orange glow. He could see the strange runes on the three treasures. He immediately asked curiously, "Are the patterns on them inscriptions?" "Barely." Lord Alcohol curled his lips in obvious disdain. "Strictly speaking, they're still a little short of first-grade inscriptions." Lin Xian scratched his head. It seemed like inscription masters were more powerful than he had imagined. Which one should I snatch? Lin Xian was vexed. If others knew what he was thinking, they would probably spit out a mouthful of blood at him. It was too infuriating. With so many experts present, no one could guarantee that they would be able to obtain one. Yet, he was vexed over which one to snatch. This was a blatant gap between them. Forget it. Out of the three, only the saber is pleasing to the eye. I'll take that one. Lin Xian made up his mind and began rubbing his palms in anticipation. Lin Xian's actions did not attract any attention. In the hall, there were many people who were doing the same thing as him. Snatching one of these treasures would make one rich. Finally, someone could no longer hold back and launched an attack on the seal. The attack struck the seal, causing layers of ripples. In the next moment, a violent aura was emitted. The three treasures shot up into the sky as they trembled incessantly. As if enraged by the attack, the three treasures began to unleash their might. Terrifying attacks came from above. The purple armor in the middle emitted a hazy shadow that gradually grew larger, as though it was about to tear apart everything. The spear on the left emitted thousands of spear beams. Each beam was as thick as a water tank. It was as though countless flood dragons were soaring in the sky. It was a terrifying aura. The saber on the right faintly emitted a tiger's roar. The pressure constantly assaulted everyone's souls. Some of the weaker warriors vomited blood and retreated. The three treasures emitted a shocking aura as they collided with the seal, causing cracking sounds to ring out. Finally, the broken seal could not withstand the force and shattered. The three treasures were completely exposed to everyone. All sorts of greedy gazes appeared in everyone's eyes. Many people turned into afterimages as they pounced forward. Chapter 133. The three artifacts ignited the atmosphere in the hall as countless figures rushed up. Lin Xian's figure flickered as he shuttled through the crowd like a wisp of smoke. He spread out his soul power and sensed the situation around him. The three artifacts floated in the air, each attracting the same number of people. However, if one looked carefully, they would notice that there were more martial artists rushing toward the long blade. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he saw the Ling family members surrounding the long blade. Ling Feng was even releasing a powerful aura, intimidating everyone. Qi. In the chaos, there was a hurried sound as a sharp aura rushed toward Lin Xian's back. Humph! Lin Xian sneered. With his soul power, he had already noticed this change. A sword Qi shot out from his body and sliced the incoming hidden weapon in half. Several figures quickly dispersed from the crowd. These people all had their gazes fixed on Lin Xian. In their eyes, although the blade in the air was valuable, there were too many people fighting for it. It would be better to rob some martial artists. Because among them, there were people who saw Lin Xian plucking a dozen spirit herbs, each of which was extremely valuable. Seeing that their attack failed, several people concealed themselves and were about to leave. However, Lin Xian would not give them the chance. With his soul power, these people were like fireflies in the dark, clearly distinguishable. Puff, puff. He flicked out a few sword Qi and merged them into the wind. Then, he jumped and rushed toward the long blade. Several muffled groans were heard as the several people who attacked were all stabbed in the forehead and died on the ground. This scene was not the only one, so it did not attract the attention of the crowd. Because more people were injured and retreating, the scene was chaotic. Clear the area. This was the thought of all the experts. Otherwise, if it was too chaotic, too many people would die, and there would be no end to it. Wong, Wong, Wong. Several powerful auras rushed into the sky and spread out. Those under the Sea of Soul Realm, retreat. All the martial artists issued the order. Moreover, these people joined hands to form an unparalleled pressure, driving away all the weaker martial artists. The rest were all Sea of Soul Realm martial artists, and there were more than 10 human figures in front of each artifact. Among these people, there were old warriors who had reached the spiritual sea realm long ago, and there were also new warriors who had obtained opportunities here. In short, these people were all very powerful. On Lin Xian's side, the four Ling family disciples had joined forces and became the largest force. The others were scattered and wary of each other. Ling Feng and the others smiled disdainfully when they saw Lin Xian. Everyone, I think it's better to get rid of these small fries. Ling Feng's voice was cold as he looked at Lin Xian. He didn't know that Lin Xian had already killed several Ling clan disciples, nor did he know of Lin Xian's performance in the herb garden. Thus, he still maintained a high and mighty attitude. The remaining warriors all had different expressions on their faces. A few of them had seen Lin Xian's methods, so they didn't dare to go against him even if they were beaten to death. However, there were also people who walked out and prepared to make a move on Lin Xian. No one explained. In this kind of situation, it was better to have as few people as possible. Do you want to leave by yourself, or do you want me to throw you out? The newcomer was a warrior in the late stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm, holding a saber in his hand. Get lost. Lin Xian didn't waste words. His powerful aura burst forth, and he sent the newcomer flying with one strike. The sword light was bright, and the cold light illuminated the surroundings. The Ling family disciples' expressions changed drastically, and they looked at Lin Xian in shock. After not seeing him for a few days, they didn't expect their enemy to become so powerful, already slightly surpassing them. Ling Feng's eyes were cold. Although he was surprised, he didn't care too much. He knew that everyone had their own fortuitous encounters, and he believed that his was better than Lin Xian's. You guys stop him. I'll go get the treasure, Ling Feng ordered. Leaping, Ling Feng rushed up, and the others also made their moves. The three Ling family disciples rushed up. Among them, Ling Xiao was in the late stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm, and the other two were in the middle stage. The three of them joined forces and blocked everyone's path. Spirit power surged, sweeping in all directions. The scene was chaotic. Lin Xian's body burst forth with powerful sword intent, splitting everyone apart as he leaped into the air. Ling Feng was fighting against the treasured weapon when he noticed Lin Xian rushing up. A bunch of trash. He was furious. He grabbed the long saber treasured weapon with one hand, and the other hand fell down. Two mountain peaks materialized, as if they were real mountains. They pressed down and enveloped Lin Xian. Hurricane style. Lin Xian had comprehended many moves from the Wind Emperor's sword, and now he used them one by one. With a slash of the sword, wild winds danced in the sky, forming a green hurricane that crashed into the mountain's shadow. Rumble. The two collided fiercely, like a bolt from the blue. Fierce energy wreaked havoc in the air, sweeping in all directions. The martial artists on the ground dodged one after another. The overflowing sword chi struck the ground, creating terrifying cracks that shocked everyone. Splitting the mountain's shadow, Lin Xian advanced again. Ling Feng's face was gloomy. Lin Xian's strength was stronger than he had imagined. However, he would not allow anyone to snatch the long saber treasured weapon. Brat, you're courting death. Ling Feng was furious. He pulled out the long saber at his waist and slashed. From his point of view, Lin Xian was obviously going against him by trying to snatch the saber treasured weapon while using a sword. The saber chi was like an upside-down galaxy, slashing towards Lin Xian. Hurricane slash. Lin Xian merged the hurricane style with the gale sword art. With a slash, 3 green torrents rolled out, crushing the saber chi. Wind thunder cut. Lin Xian went against the flow. The green sword chi wrapped in golden lightning was extremely sharp as it slashed towards Ling Feng. Triple mountain suppressing hand. Ling Feng held the saber in his right hand and pushed out with his left. 3 giant mountain shadows pressed down. Bang! Bang! There was a sound of explosion in the air. Water-like ripples spread out as the terrifying energy spread out. Lin Xian's expression changed slightly. Ling Feng's strength was extremely powerful, already at the late stage of the second layer of the spiritual ocean realm. That surging spirit power made his heart palpitate. Phantom thunder step. His body kept jumping, flashing left and right, rapidly changing his position. After comprehending the Wind Emperor's sword, Lin Xian's comprehension of the wind was even deeper. His current speed could be said to be extremely fast. Rushing out of the range of the mountain's pressure, the sword intent in his body kept rising, and the red flame sword appeared in his hand. Wind blending style. It was a silent and deadly strike. The bright sword chi blended into the wind and was barely visible, as if it had not been slashed out. Ling Feng was a martial artist at the late stage of the second layer of the spiritual ocean realm after all. His experience and alertness were not ordinary. His heart beat violently as he felt a fatal danger in front of his chest. Not good. Ling Feng quickly dodged, temporarily giving up on the treasured weapon. His body moved horizontally and appeared a few feet away. Puff. The air where he was standing suddenly rippled, and a long rainbow slashed out, cutting in all directions. Although Ling Feng moved horizontally, this sword chi was too long and contained a supreme sword intent. In the end, it still cut him. The clothes in front of his chest were torn apart, and he retreated a dozen meters before stopping. Breathing heavily, Ling Feng's eyes burned with anger. If it weren't for his life-saving armor, this attack would have been enough to seriously injure him. Lin Xian. He gritted his teeth, staring at the figure in front of him with a vicious gaze. Chapter 134. Lin Xian's sword had already threatened his life. If it weren't for his armor, he would have been seriously injured. He had always regarded Lin Xian as an ant, but now, this ant could already hurt him. Tearing off his clothes, Ling Feng revealed the armor underneath. He was ready to settle the score with Lin Xian, but found that Lin Xian wasn't even looking at him, but was trying his best to subdue the saber-type artifact. This gave him the urge to vomit blood. Ling Feng was furious, and the aura on his body exploded like a flood. Holding the saber in his right hand and using the mountain-suppressing hand with his left hand, he rushed forward with the spirit armor around his body. Boom! The saber light crisscrossed, and the mountain pressed down. Ling Feng showed his powerful strength and attacked Lin Xian. Whoosh! Lin Xian retreated quickly, leaving the saber-type artifact. His long sword shook as he fought fiercely with Ling Feng. The two exchanged dozens of moves, and the momentum shook the sky. It was hard to tell who would win. The surrounding people were all shocked. They knew how powerful Ling Feng was. With the cultivation of the second sky of the spiritual ocean tier, he could be considered a top fighter. However, Lin Xian's performance was out of everyone's expectations. With the cultivation of the first layer of the spiritual ocean tier, he could fight evenly with Ling Feng. This kind of battle power was shocking. As expected of someone who comprehended sword intent, the few people retreated in fear. The energy was about to reach them. Brother Feng, let us help you. 3 Ling family martial artists rushed forward together, ready to take down Lin Xian, their biggest enemy. Get lost. Lin Xian stabbed the illusory mountain with his sword, and the sharp sword intent forced Ling Feng back. At the same time, he turned his head and roared. The sound waves spread out like water ripples, rushing towards the 3 who rushed over. The sound waves were like a huge wave, drowning the 3. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The 3 of them kept retreating, spitting out blood. Lions roar? Ling Feng's face turned ugly. How do you know lions roar? What a joke. Lin Xian said disdainfully. This is thunder sound wave. What kind of lion's roar is this? It's so unpleasant to hear. Naturally, he would not admit that he was the one who killed the people of the Ling clan. After all, there were too many people here. If word got out, He would be hunted down by the elders of the Ling clan. This was not what he wanted. Ling Feng was suspicious and his face was ashen. Other than the four of them, no one else from the Ling family had appeared. Could it be that he killed everyone? Although Ling Feng didn't believe it, the current situation forced him to believe it. No matter what, you're going to die. Ling Feng's face was gloomy. He couldn't do anything to Lin Xian at the moment, but he still had a trump card. You should be proud to die here. An octagonal stone appeared in his hand. In the middle of the stone, there was a vivid drawing of a mountain peak. The moment the stone was taken out, the atmosphere in the hall became somewhat stifling. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down on everyone's hearts. Be careful. Those are inscriptions. Lord Alcohol warned. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He didn't expect the other party to have such a thing. These were real inscriptions, different from the talisman papers he had seen in the past. When the three warriors of the Ling clan saw Ling Feng take out the stone, their expressions calmed down. Great. With the talisman treasure, this punk is dead for sure. That's right. Once the talisman treasure is taken out, no one can survive. However, it's too easy for him to die under the talisman treasure. We should grind his bones to dust and let him taste all the poisons in the world. The disciples of the Ling clan retreated into the distance smugly as they sneered. The surrounding warriors also changed their expressions and left as though they were fleeing. Although they had never seen the might of the talisman treasure, they had heard of its legends countless times. Even the warriors who were fighting for the two items carefully avoided them and shifted the battlefield. Kneel down and repent. I might leave you with an intact corpse. Ling Feng held the talisman treasure in his hand and laughed maniacally. You? Lin Xian sneered. If you kneel down obediently, I can consider sparing your life. How dare you? Insolence. The disciples of the Ling clan shouted angrily and then snorted. Reckless fool. The power of the talisman treasure is unimaginable. Killing you is as easy as killing an ant. That's right. If you beg for mercy now and become a slave of the Ling clan, you can live. The few of them made a big fuss and were extremely arrogant. Ling Feng had a playful look on his face. He wanted to enjoy Lin Xian's terrified expression. He wanted the genius who comprehended sword essence to kneel at his feet. However, he was destined to be disappointed. Lin Xian looked at him with disdain, as though he was looking at an idiot. This is your trump card? You said it was so powerful. Take it out and try. The surrounding warriors all changed their expressions. Lin Xian's reaction was too abnormal. Normally, when a warrior saw a talisman treasure, they would either beg for mercy or run away. Who would be like Lin Xian, who looked down on it mercilessly? Could it be that Lin Xian has a backup plan? Many people guessed. Ling Feng gnashed his teeth in hatred. This kind of talisman treasure would be damaged every time it was used. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to use it. He originally only wanted to intimidate Lin Xian and make him submit obediently. Who knew that the other party was not afraid at all and had an indifferent look on his face. If you're not going to make a move, I'm going to. Lin Xian slashed out with his long sword and hit the saber treasure, making a clanging sound. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Ling Feng's face was ruthless. After killing Lin Xian, he would obtain the treasured weapon. In this way, he would not lose out. Channeling his spiritual energy into the talisman treasure, Ling Feng's face turned solemn. Although the talisman treasure was powerful, it consumed a shocking amount of spiritual energy. With his cultivation, he could only use it 3 times. On the octagonal stone, the black mountain peak began to glow. A monstrous pressure was emitted as if it was going to collapse the void. The surrounding warriors retreated again and again. This power made their hearts palpitate. Lin Xian's face was also solemn. He secretly held the bronze gauntlet, ready to attack at any time. Die! Ling Feng's face was filled with madness as he poured all of his spiritual energy into the talisman treasure. A black mountain peak floated out and gradually became bigger in the air. Finally, it became a few dozen feet tall and carried a terrifying aura. Boom! The void trembled as if it was going to collapse. The black mountain peak fell mercilessly, enveloping Lin Xian. Die! The Ling family disciple laughed wildly. The surrounding warriors felt that it was a pity. A genius who comprehended sword intent was going to fall just like that. No. An anxious shout came from afar as several figures rushed over from afar. However, everything was too late. The Black Mountain Peak was less than 10 meters away from Lin Xian. The ground that was enveloped by it had caved in. Lin Xian's sword intent was overflowing and resonating as it resisted the pressure. He was not afraid at all. With the bronze gauntlet and ancient armor, he was confident that he could escape. Moreover, he was not in a hurry to use them. The pressure from the mountain peak was just enough to train him and help him break through. His cultivation had temporarily reached a peak and needed stimulation to break through. The pressure in front of him was the best motivation. Lin Xian's whole body glowed as he resisted with all his might. Haha, stop struggling. No one can escape. Ling Feng saw Lin Xian's appearance and laughed crazily. Who asked you to go against the Ling family? Die. No one would offend the Ling family for a dead genius, so even if you die, no one will avenge you. Junior brother Lin, run. A voice came from afar, extremely anxious. Lin Xian could no longer hear the voices outside. He used the art of long life to the limit and finally broke through to the middle stage of the first layer of the spiritual ocean realm. Broke through? But it's useless. The Ling family disciple was insolent. You'll still die. The surrounding warriors were regretful, but the distant figure had already arrived nearby. Mu Rong Qianling roared anxiously. Your Ling family actually dared to make a move. The Black Sky sect will not let you off. The Black Mountain Peak was already above his head and was about to crush Lin Xian. Mu Rong Qianling closed her eyes as tears fell from her eyes. And at this moment, Lin Xian took out the bronze gauntlet. Endless cyan light rushed up and enveloped the entire main hall. An even more violent power swept out in all directions. Chapter 135. Just when everyone thought that Lin Xian had no hope, a sudden change occurred. Green light like the moon enveloped the surroundings, and a terrifying energy surged out. Boom! As if the world was about to be destroyed, space exploded, and the entire hall shook incessantly. Seals lit up one after another, forming a defensive barrier that maintained the hall from destruction. Countless figures were blown away by the violent wind, rolling in all directions. After a long time, the hall regained its calm. Apart from the 3 artifacts in the sky that were unaffected, everyone else had been affected. Many martial artists were injured, but most of them were shaken to the core. This method was too terrifying. It could kill a group of Sea of Soul Realm martial artists with one blow. Everyone looked at the center of the hall, and then they were stunned like stone statues. In the center of the hall, Lin Xian's black hair fluttered, and he wore an ancient armor that emitted light and wrapped around his body. On his left hand, there was a bronze gauntlet. Terrifying energy waves were emitted from it, and every trace of it made people's hearts tremble. A large hole several meters wide appeared on the Black Mountain Peak, and the entire mountain peak was pierced through. In the end, the Black Mountain Peak gradually disappeared, and a crack appeared on the octagonal stone that Ling Feng was on. It was very eye-catching. Impossible! This is impossible! Ling Feng yelled like a mad dog. Lin Xian was already suppressed, so how could he still resist? Moreover, his talisman artifact was destroyed. The other 3 Ling family disciples were so scared that they trembled and didn't dare to look at Lin Xian. The surrounding people had strange expressions as they looked at the youth in the center of the hall in horror. I didn't expect him to have a talisman artifact. Some martial artist hearts burned as they stared at Lin Xian's left hand. However, no one dared to act rashly. No one dared to provoke Lin Xian at this time. Lin Xian's face was pale. He didn't feel good from the previous blow, and his left hand was still numb. However, he didn't show any abnormalities. Raising his head to look at the saber-shaped artifact in the sky, Lin Xian slowly walked over. He raised his hand and shot out a sword light. He began to use his sword intent to suppress the artifact. Seeing Lin Xian brazenly subdue a prized artifact, everyone's hearts tightened and they subconsciously rushed forward. Lin Xian coldly turned around and swept his gaze across the crowd. It was as if a sharp sword aura had passed by. Everyone felt a chill run down their backs and stopped in their tracks. With just a glance, everyone stopped in their tracks. No one could do such a thing. Ling Feng stood to the side, still in a state of great shock. It was not until Lin Xian subdued the saber-type artifact that he came to his senses. However, it was all too late. Lin Xian, who possessed a prized artifact, was even more powerful. It was likely that no one would be his match. Junior brother Lin, you're all right? That's great. Murong Qianling walked up to Qianling, her face filled with joy. Lin Xian's expression relaxed, and he nodded with a smile. He then inquired about the other party's situation. Whoosh, whoosh. Another few silhouettes rushed over at a frightening speed. In the blink of an eye, the two figures had already stopped in front of everyone. Senior brother Zhang, senior brother Xie. Many people shouted. The newcomers were Zhang Jun and Xie Changfeng. When they saw the traces of battle nearby and the residual energy fluctuations in the air, their expressions changed slightly. Soon, the two of them understood what had happened and looked at Lin Xian in surprise. Xie Changfeng was only curious, but a cold glint flashed through Zhang Jun's eyes. Junior brother Lin, you're a sword cultivator and have no use for a saber. Why don't you give it to Ling Feng? Zhang Jun said indifferently. What? Everyone was stunned as if they couldn't believe their ears. Even Ling Feng had a shocked expression. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and stared at Zhang Jun. Coldness rose in his heart. Zhang Jun already knew that he had a talisman treasure weapon and still dared to act like this. He probably had something to rely on. Lin Xian guessed that Zhang Jun probably had a similar weapon. Xiao Xuanzi, the brat opposite you has reached the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. You have to be careful, Lord Alcohol reminded. Also, he has a saber-type artifact in his storage ring. Lin Xian was slightly stunned. It seemed that Zhang Jun's luck wasn't small. Not only did he advance, but he also obtained many treasures. Everyone looked at Lin Xian, waiting for his answer. A glimmer of hope rose in Ling Feng's heart. Lin Xian said slowly, I heard that senior brother Zhang isn't a saber cultivator. Why didn't you give away the saber-type artifact in your storage ring? Could it be that you can't bear to part with it? His words didn't mean much to the others. Most of them thought that he was just spouting nonsense. However, Zhang Jun's heart trembled, and his pupils contracted. How does he know about me? Zhang Jun couldn't understand. Did he see it? He couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it. He could only snort coldly and say, what a joke. How could I have a saber-type artifact? Zhang Jun's face turned cold as his aura overflowed. An extremely oppressive aura appeared, causing the surrounding martial artists to tremble. Third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Therefore, all the martial artists were shocked. They swallowed their saliva with difficulty and then looked at Zhang Jun with fear. The gap between the 7 layers of the spiritual sea realm was huge. Except for a genius like Lin Xian, who comprehended sword intent, there were very few people who could fight above their level. Congratulations, senior brother Zhang Jun, for breaking through. Many people congratulated him. Senior brother Zhang, congratulations. Ling Feng's heart was bitter. Not only did he lose to Lin Xian, but he also damaged his talisman treasure. It could be said that he was extremely unlucky, and the others were constantly improving, leaving him far behind. I think senior brother Zhang's ranking on the Hidden Dragon ranking will rise quite a bit. Zhang Jun was previously ranked 97th on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Now that his cultivation had greatly increased, he would probably rise quite a bit. When the congratulations stopped, Mu Rongqianling said in a deep voice, Senior brother Zhang, the treasure was obtained by Lin Xian. It should belong to him. I hope senior brother won't interfere. Mu Rongqianling also knew about the conflict between Lin Xian and the senior elder. However, she did not expect Zhang Jun to publicly make things difficult for Lin Xian. No matter what, Lin Xian was a disciple of the Black Sky sect. Moreover, he was a genius who comprehended sword intent. She would not let Lin Xian be threatened. Since junior sister Mu Rong has spoken, then this matter will be settled. Zhang Jun said very magnanimously. Lin Xian felt a wave of nausea. He really wanted to kick Zhang Jun to death. Damn, this is too annoying. Just because your cultivation is high, you can bully others as you wish? Humph. Lin Xian coldly snorted and put away the treasure. At this time, the battle between the other two treasures had also ended. However, the result was unexpected. Among them, the long spear was actually obtained by Shangguan Lu Yun. He held the spear in one hand and stood proudly like a mountain. The other piece of armor fell into the hands of a mysterious woman. This woman's white clothes were whiter than snow. Her face was covered by a veil and was filled with mystery. Her slender jade-like hands grabbed the purple armor. Then, her spiritual power surged and she directly put it on. The purple armor trembled slightly and disappeared. Many people had strange expressions. The owners of the three treasures were unexpected. Lin Xian and Shangguan Lu Yun were both rising stars. As for the woman in white, no one knew who she was. On the contrary, Ling Feng, Wang Jianqing, Yuan Fei, and the other experts that everyone was looking forward to did not obtain a single treasure. Lin Xian nodded slightly at Shangguan Lu Yun and greeted him. Shangguan Lu Yun put away his long spear and turned into a stream of light as he rushed over. Whoosh! He stopped and stood beside Lin Xian. Everyone glanced sideways, but more of their gazes were focused on the woman in white. Chapter 136. The white-clothed girl naturally came in with Zixia sect, but no one recognized her among the crowd. "Miss, where are you from? You look unfamiliar. How did you enter this trial land of blood?" Zhang Jun's cultivation was the highest, so he assumed the role of a leader and asked. The white-clothed girl glanced at him indifferently. Her gaze was as calm as water, without a trace of fluctuation. "You're not qualified to ask me." Her voice was as cold as ice, as if she was born this way. Zhang Jun's face was gloomy. He looked at the beautiful figure in front of him with anger burning in his eyes. After he entered the third sky of the spiritual ocean realm, his strength increased greatly, and he faintly had the momentum of being the number one of the younger generation in Yunzhou. However, in a short time, there was Lin Xian who ridiculed him and didn't put him in his eyes, and now there was another person who was even more arrogant than him. This was something he couldn't tolerate. "Since you won't speak, you must have used some underhanded means to enter." Zhang Jun smiled evilly. "Wait for me to capture you and hand you over to the elders." He wanted to show off his strength, or else it would be hard to intimidate the crowd. Wang. The cultivation of the third sky of the spiritual ocean realm exploded, like a huge wave crashing against the shore. Shocking cloud palm. He struck out with his palm, forming a huge palm in the air and crashing down. Like a colorful cloud, it overflowed with multicolored light and endless spiritual power. As the palm fell, the air seemed to explode from the pressure, forming sharp ripples that spread out in all directions. Except for Lin Xian, Murong Qianling, and a few others, the other martial artists were repelled by this power. "You overestimate yourself." The white-clothed girl's voice was ice-cold. She extended her white finger and lightly tapped the air. Chi-chi. With one finger, the huge cloud palm quickly melted like ice and snow, spreading out and finally disappearing between heaven and earth. What kind of technique is this? Everyone was stunned. With just one finger, she broke the attack of a martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm. Murong Qianling and the others' expressions changed slightly, but Lin Xian's eyes flashed as he used purple spirit pupil to observe. "You." Zhang Jun's expression became extremely ugly. Although he didn't use his full strength in this palm, it contained at least 70% of his power. This kind of power was enough to kill anyone present. However, it was broken by the other party's finger. "Looks like if I don't show my true strength, you won't know how powerful I am." He didn't want to make a fool of himself in front of everyone and prepared to attack. At this moment, a wave of gloomy energy rippled out, carrying a trace of vicissitudes of life. Following that, the entire hall began to shake as if it was about to collapse. Everyone was alarmed. They didn't know what had happened, and spread. Everyone's eyes were abnormally fiery, as if they had been injected with chicken blood, abnormally excited. Inherited martial arts, that was an existence even more precious than treasures. There are more inherited martial arts? Lin Xian was suspicious. His Wind Emperor's one sword was considered a type of inherited martial arts, but it seemed like there was more than one inherited martial arts. Many people ran towards the direction of the tremors, wanting to occupy a powerful position. Especially those who did not get a great treasure, their hearts were filled with resentment. Even Zheng Jun gave up on the white-robed woman and turned into a streak of light to escape. Lin Xian followed behind the crowd and wanted to take a look. The lady in white seemed to have thought of something and her expression changed slightly. She quickly ran in that direction. When Lin Xian arrived, the place was already surrounded by people. When the crowd saw him, they subconsciously opened up a path. Lin Xian was now a top warrior in the eyes of the crowd. No one would underestimate him. Lin Xian didn't care. His body swayed, and he came to the front. Four huge stone pillars supported the four directions. In the middle was a blood pool with fresh red blood flowing. An unusually pungent smell of blood wafted over, causing everyone to frown. There were many weapon remains on the ground. Lin Xian looked carefully and realized that the broken weapons were all treasured weapons. What happened here to cause treasured weapons to break and warriors to die? Lin Xian was curious. At the front, there was a blood-red door that was slightly ajar. An ancient and vicissitude aura came from inside, causing everyone to be excited. The inheritance must be inside. Hurry up and charge. Someone shouted in the dark. Immediately, a few warriors rushed forward. However, they stopped after a few steps and kept turning in circles. This scene stunned the remaining warriors. They didn't know what had happened. It's an array. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. His eyes flashed as he kept looking. Damn it, what happened? Someone was furious, taking action forward. Boom. The long saber was like a rainbow as it slashed on the blood pool, causing thousands of ripples. Not good. Zheng Jun and the rest changed their expressions. They looked coldly at the person who attacked, wishing they could kill him. That person trembled and came to his senses. He regretted it. However, it was all too late. In the blood pool, the demonic blood vibrated and split into four streams, wrapping around the four stone pillars. In the next moment, a huge blood-red array formed under everyone's feet. It emitted a strange energy. Everyone felt as if they were in a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses. All they could see were huge white bones. Ka, ka. With loud sounds, the white bones merged with the blood and merged into zombie-like monsters that charged at everyone. Kill. Sword chi and spiritual power surged. Everyone fell into a chaotic battle. Let's take a look at that door. Lin Xian's body flashed as he ran forward. Stay. Two figures appeared and stopped Lin Xian. Zheng Jun and Ling Feng joined forces to block Lin Xian. Zheng Jun's face was filled with killing intent as he stared coldly at Lin Xian. Ling Feng's eyes were filled with viciousness. He wanted to tear Lin Xian apart immediately. This time, no one can save you. The two of them attacked ruthlessly. Terrifying energy shrouded the space. Phantom Thunder Step. Lin Xian increased his speed to the maximum and retreated instantly. Boom. An endless sea of fire appeared as if it was a world of lava. Terrifying energy burned in all directions. The mysterious array was activated continuously, forming a sea of fire that shrouded everyone. Zheng Jun and Ling Feng instantly lost sight of Lin Xian and were surrounded by the sea of fire. Break the array first and obtain the inheritance. Then, we will kill Lin Xian, Zheng Jun said in a deep voice. The two of them kept flashing as they tried to dodge. However, the array was too profound and they were not proficient in it. They were trapped and lost contact with it. On the other side, Lin Xian was also enveloped by the sea of fire. Oomph! Petty tricks. Lord Alcohol sneered inside Lin Xian's body. Under Lord Alcohol's guidance, Lin Xian walked through the sea of fire as if it were flat ground. Let's deal with the hidden danger first. His eyes flashed as he decided to attack Ling Feng and Zheng Jun first. The two of them had tried to kill him more than once. If not for his recent increase in strength, he would have been assassinated by them long ago. Whoosh! He flashed quickly and dodged the sea of fire. He arrived behind Ling Feng and stabbed with his sword. Chapter 137. Wind Melting Style. This sword seemed to have turned into a breeze, without a trace of sound. Facing the sea of fire, Ling Feng felt the shocking killing intent. The hair on his back stood up, and he rolled forward. Chi, chi. The air rippled, and a brilliant sword ray flew out, almost brushing past Ling Feng's body. Although it didn't hit him, some of the sword chi still touched him, and the shocking sword intent drilled into his body, wreaking havoc. Ling Feng hurriedly channeled the spirit power in his body, suppressing the sword intent and digesting it. You dare to attack me? Ling Feng gritted his teeth. You want to kill me? Do you think I'll let you go? Lin Xian sneered, not giving him a chance, and directly charged over. Ling Feng originally wanted to stall for time, but didn't expect Lin Xian to be so decisive, directly charging over. At this moment, the sword in Lin Xian's hand seemed to have turned into a flood dragon, soaring and rolling with a murderous aura. Pong, pong. Ling Feng countered with the mountain-suppressing hand, continuously bombarding the sword chi. The two collided, and the sound spread in all directions, with sparks flying everywhere. Roar! Lin Xian rushed forward, directly using Lion's Roar to bombard Ling Feng. He planned to end the battle quickly. Zhang Jun, Lin Xian is here. Ling Feng lost to Lin Xian earlier, leaving a shadow in his heart. Facing Lin Xian's fierce aura, he felt a trace of fear in his heart. This fear originally didn't exist. Ling Feng was a martial artist at the late stage of the second layer of the spiritual ocean realm, a few levels higher than Lin Xian. If he fought with all his strength, the result might not be certain. However, when he saw Lin Xian even penetrate Ling family's treasure talisman, fear arose in his heart. And this fear had now become his fatal weakness. The sound waves vibrated, spreading out like water ripples, attacking Ling Feng. Seeing that there was no response, Ling Feng could only fight with all his strength. Roar! Similarly, it was Lion's Roar, and Ling Feng launched a sound wave attack. The two sound waves collided, extinguishing the surrounding sea of fire. Kid, I'll let you know my power. Ling Feng successfully blocked the sound waves, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. Oomph! Lin Xian had long noticed the fear in Ling Feng's heart. He sneered, You can't do it. Even if we use the same martial skill, you're still inferior to me. Mad Lion Roar. Lin Xian roared again. The sound wave contained a soul attack, and it quickly attacked. Haha, how dare you compete with me in sound waves? Ling Feng laughed and became arrogant again. My spirit energy is much more abundant than yours. Just wait for your death. Ling Feng was like a lion, roaring furiously. Wong, wong. The void trembled, rippling like the surface of a lake. The two sound waves collided and dissolved each other. However, Ling Feng's expression gradually turned ugly. He realized that the sound waves he had sent out were quickly disappearing, but Lin Xian had not changed at all. Impossible, he finally screamed. How did you do it? What answered him was a sound wave. Wong. Ling Feng was enveloped by the sound wave and resisted with all his might. A spirit power armor appeared on his body to resist the energy attack of the sound wave. If it was an ordinary Mad Lion Roar, Ling Feng could still dodge it with his cultivation. However, the sound wave now contained Lin Xian's spirit energy and a trace of sword essence. Ah, that strange energy attacked Ling Feng's spirit, causing him to go crazy. He rolled on the ground, bleeding from his 7 orifices. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes were full of fear. Lin Xian walked over step by step, and his voice was cold. Your Ling family bullied others and tried to assassinate me several times. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? What do you want? Ling Feng's willpower was crushed. His voice trembled. Spare me. I promise I won't provoke you again. Lin Xian did not say anything. Instead, he slowly raised his right hand. Ling Feng appeared to be begging for mercy, but he secretly pulled out his talisman and prepared to attack Lin Xian. However, his actions were all seen by Lin Xian's purple spirit eyes. Go to hell. Triple mountain suppressing hand. Before Ling Feng could take out his talisman treasure, Lin Xian had already made his move. 3 illusory mountain peaks appeared, as if they were 3 huge mountains that crushed the void. No, impossible. This is the Ling family's secret technique. How do you know it? Ling Feng was completely crazy. He could not even hold the talisman in his hand steadily. Boom! The three mountains overlapped and weighed thousands of kilograms. They pressed down on Lingfeng. Lingfeng's willpower was damaged. He did not have any thoughts of resisting. He screamed and turned into a bloody mist. Lin Xian picked up the mountain talisman on the ground and put it into his storage ring. He looked at the ground and saw that Lingfeng's storage ring was broken. With a sigh, he quickly left the place. Not far away, Zhang Jun's face was gloomy. He had heard Lingfeng's cries since the beginning. However, this damned array was like a maze. It was full of danger. He could not rush out at all. In the end, Lingfeng's voice disappeared. He had a bad feeling. Subconsciously, he did not think that Lin Xian could defeat Lingfeng. The difference in cultivation between the two was too big. However, reality was cruel. He did not expect Lin Xian's strength. In addition, Lingfeng was scared out of his wits and had no power to resist. As he was thinking, the sea of fire in front of him surged into the sky. Zhang Jun was very alert and retreated quickly. Who? Three green tornadoes rushed out of the sea of fire and attacked Zhang Jun in a triangular formation. Shocking Cloud Hand. Zhang Jun clenched his fist and dispersed the three tornadoes. However, the sense of danger in his heart did not disappear. Instead, it was getting stronger. Whoosh! He suddenly turned around and a long saber appeared in his hand. He slashed with force. The saber radiance flashed with shocking momentum and shattered the sword radiance that suddenly appeared behind him. A silhouette flashed by and soon disappeared. Lin Xian. Zhang Jun's face was extremely gloomy. He did not expect that an ant in the first layer of the spiritual ocean tier would dare to attack him. Who? His body flashed and he slashed with his saber. The blazing saber radiance split open the sea of fire and rushed towards Lin Xian. Pong! Lin Xian used Wind Thundercut and slashed at the saber radiance. The huge force sent him flying. So terrifying. Lin Xian was shocked. He suppressed his roiling qi and blood and fled into the distance. That attack just now felt as if he had crashed into a huge mountain, making him feel powerless. Is this the strength of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier? Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He knew that the gap between them was too big, and it was impossible to kill Zhang Jun. Let's go check out that door first. Lin Xian made up his mind. Just as Lin Xian was moving, there was another person moving quickly in the formation. She was the white-clothed girl. She had already separated from the disciples of Zixia sect, but obviously, she had not found the thing she was looking for. Just as she and Lin Xian were moving quickly, a ball of black fog entered the blood pool at an astonishing speed. After a moment, a dull sound came from the void. The whole formation stopped and the sea of fire around them gradually disappeared. At this moment, Lin Xian and the white-clothed girl had already arrived in front of the blood-red door. Everyone's eyes were burning as they stared at the two of them, their eyes filled with the flames of jealousy. Zhang Jun shouted crazily, "Aunt, you dare!" Lin Xian did not pay attention to anyone. He cautiously glanced at the white-clothed girl not far away, then pushed open the door with force. At this moment, a red and black blood sword flew out from the blood pool like red lightning and quickly struck the white-clothed girl. Pong! A purple armor appeared on the white-clothed girl's body and blocked most of the attack, but she still spat out a mouthful of blood. Behind her, the red and black blood sword changed and a black-robed person appeared strangely. Black fog rolled on his body, mixed with red blood. This change was so sudden that even Lin Xian couldn't react in time. At this moment, the blood-red door in front of them slowly opened and sucked Lin Xian and the other two in. Chapter 138. Three figures crashed into the blood-red door. Wang Dong. The blood-red door slowly closed, blocking everyone outside. My inheritance. Damn it, why not me? That Lin guy is too lucky. Some warriors covered their heads and cried bitterly, lamenting their lives. Among them, Zhang Jun was the most upset. He had the highest cultivation and as a personal disciple, his status was respected. He had always thought that he was number one among these people. However, the martial arts inheritance that was so close to him slipped away, and he could only watch helplessly. And Lin Xian, who he regarded as an ant, could enter. This is not fair. Zhang Jun roared in his heart. He slammed his palm on the red door, but there was no effect. Humph. I don't believe that you won't come out. Zhang Jun sat down and prepared to wait for Lin Xian. He wanted to snatch the inheritance from Lin Xian's hands and trample Lin Xian to death. Seeing Zhang Jun sit down, the other warriors also sat down and prepared to wait. Although there was no guarantee of success, they still had to try. Of course, not everyone stayed. Some warriors left wisely. There were other treasures outside, and there was no need to wait for an illusory inheritance. Behind the blood-red door, it was like another world. There was no green floor or hard wall. Instead, it was like a cave, surrounded by natural mountains. Lin Xian immediately assumed a defensive posture and quickly scanned the surroundings with his soul power. Beside him, the white-clothed girl was injured and her body was weak. She forced herself to use the purple armor, forming a purple shadow to protect her body. Are you okay? Lin Xian looked at her inquisitively. The white-clothed girl's veil was stained with blood. She took it off and slowly shook her head. She took out an elixir and consumed it. Then, she healed her injuries and looked around vigilantly. Lin Xian saw the white-clothed girl's face and was stunned. He had seen many beauties. Murong Qinling's coldness, Tang Yu's unruliness, and Yin Qingyi's shyness. However, compared to the young girl in front of them, they still paled in comparison. Feeling Lin Xian's gaze, the white-clothed girl's face turned slightly red. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she couldn't help but snort softly. Lin Xian scratched his head awkwardly, not knowing what to say. Hee, kid, are you tempted? A hoarse voice echoed in the cave, sounding somewhat sinister. You and I will work together to capture her. I want the thing, you want the person. What do you think? The voice echoed. Lin Xian was speechless and rolled his eyes. Did he look like he couldn't wait? After the white-clothed girl heard this, her body trembled. Then, she looked at Lin Xian warily. After thinking for a while, the girl in white moved her lips and said to Lin Xian, "Don't listen to his nonsense. He is from the Nether Hall. He is very vicious. Don't fall into his trap." Lin Xian was slightly taken aback. From the looks of it, the two of them were afraid of each other and didn't dare to make a move. The white-clothed girl was injured, but the black-robed man didn't dare to make a move. From the looks of it, the white-clothed girl must be very powerful. He recalled how the white-clothed girl had destroyed Zhang Jun's attack with a single finger. That finger attack was extremely stunning and seemed to contain a concept. Where is this? The land of inheritance? Lin Xian didn't answer the two of them as he kept looking around. He used his soul force to observe, but didn't find anything abnormal. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. This place is very spacious. There seems to be something inside, Lord Alcohol reminded him. Lin Xian nodded. He wanted to explore, but he was worried about the two of them. The black-robed man's aura was very similar to the black-robed youths he had killed in Mountain Overlook City. Furthermore, he had heard the term Nether Hall from General Zhang. As for the white-clothed girl's origins, he didn't know. However, she didn't seem like a bad person. This white-clothed girl doesn't seem to be from this region, Lord Alcohol said leisurely. You know? Lin Xian was slightly taken aback. Lord Alcohol snorted. She's being suppressed by space. Her cultivation level is probably above the Spirit Sea realm. Furthermore, she's about the same age as you. Do you think there's such a person in China? Above the Spirit Sea realm? Lin Xian was surprised as he took another look at the white-clothed girl. That was too terrifying. There was really no one in China who could enter the three spirit realms at such a young age. Sensing Lin Xian's gaze, the white-clothed girl shrank back. She was seriously injured and was afraid that Lin Xian and the black-robed man would join forces. Kid, have you considered it? The black-robed man spoke again. I think the situation is pretty good. No one needs to take action. Lin Xian shrugged his shoulders. Everyone was coexisting peacefully. Wait a moment. I'll go ahead and take a look. Lin Xian didn't want to break the balance. The white-clothed girl and the black-robed man weren't people he could deal with. Only by stalling for time would he have a chance of escaping. A sullen look appeared on the white-clothed girl's face as she glared fiercely at Lin Xian. The black-robed man was also taken aback. He never expected that Lin Xian wouldn't help anyone. Do you know of the Nether Hall? The white-clothed girl said, That's an evil faction that once brought disaster to several countries. And he's a remnant of the Nether Hall. If you don't kill him, he'll kill you sooner or later. So, a black beam flashed and attacked the white-clothed girl like a black bolt of lightning. Rumble. The purple armor emitted a glow as it formed a tight defense. Lin Xian tensed up as he prepared to retreat. The two of them were stronger than Zheng Jun. He wasn't able to deal with them at the moment. Kid. She's right. The black-robed man laughed. Our Templar Hall is indeed a hegemon. As long as you help me, I'll guide you into the Templar Hall and make you a member of the Nether Hall. Even you can't do anything to her. My cultivation level is lower than yours. What can I do? Lin Xian was puzzled. I can sense a sharp sword intent from you. As long as we join forces, we'll definitely be able to break through her defense. The black-robed man said coldly, So that's how it is. Lin Xian finally understood that the two of them had taken a liking to his sword intent. Young hero, you can't listen to him. As the white-clothed girl recovered, she quickly said, The Nether Hall must be trying to revive some old monsters. He's probably here to find the life essence. This item contains powerful vitality that can revive some old fellows in the Nether Hall. Therefore, we have to get rid of him. Life essence? Lin Xian's eyes shimmered. If the life essence was so magical, would it be effective on Lord Alcohol? Lin Xian quickly asked with a voice transmission. It should be effective, but if the grade is too low, the effect might not be great, Lord Alcohol said slowly. After receiving the answer, he fell into deep thought. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Lin Xian decided to help Lord Alcohol find the life essence. I wonder what the life essence you're talking about is? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. Chapter 139. Brat, you talk too much. Lin Xian's question clearly displeased the black-robed man, and a black fog rushed towards Lin Xian. Chi. With a flash of sword light, the black fog was cut open and gradually dissipated. What a sharp sword intent! The white-clothed girl was slightly shocked. She knew the difference in cultivation between the two. The black-robed man was obviously much stronger than Lin Xian, but this sword cut opened the black-robed man's attack. Looks like if I don't show you some tricks, you won't be honest. The black-robed man was somewhat annoyed. He hid in the darkness, but attacks came from all directions. Netherworld prison. The black fog around Lin Xian fluctuated, and 4 chains formed from black fog shot out from the ground, trapping him. There were fine black lines between the chains, emitting a dangerous aura. Lin Xian's eyes flashed, and everything around him was clearly imprinted in his mind. Careful, don't touch the black chi, the white-clothed girl in the distance warned. Hurricane style. The long sword swept out, and 4 green hurricanes formed, breaking out in all directions. Lin Xian's body also jumped up. Gale 3 thrusts. The long sword turned into a shooting star and flew out, as if it merged with the wind and was extremely fast. However, the black fog wasn't made of metal and could change shape at will. Lin Xian's body flew far away, and the rectangular black fog was stretched infinitely, but it didn't shatter. It's useless. Don't waste your energy. Even a martial artist in the 3rd layer of the spiritual ocean tier can't escape from the netherworld prison, not to mention you. The black-robed man's words carried a trace of pride, and his voice drifted, making people unable to distinguish its source. Lin Xian retreated rapidly and was once again enveloped by the black fog. Brat, there's only one way to live, and that is to join hands with me, the black-robed man threatened. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth raised slightly. He wasn't afraid, because it wasn't the first time he dealt with people from the Netherworld Hall. Earlier in the battle at Mountain Overlook City, he knew that people from the Netherworld Hall were afraid of attacks of the Yang attribute like thunder and fire. He hadn't used the golden lightning yet, so he wasn't worried. Even if it didn't work, he still had the bronze gauntlets, so staying alive was not a problem. Tell me, what is the life essence he's looking for? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. The woman in white was slightly stunned. She thought that Lin Xian would be afraid and join forces with the black-robed man, but now it seemed that this was not the case. I should be looking for the same thing as him, but I didn't succeed. The woman in white said, according to my calculations, this thing should be in this ruin. It's a vicious beast egg, but I don't know what species it is. In order to gain Lin Xian's support, the woman in white told him everything she knew. Vicious beast egg? Lin Xian's face was expressionless, but his heart was shaken. He remembered the cyan vicious beast egg in his storage ring. It was given to him by the little white monkey in the cave. It looked very ordinary, so he didn't pay much attention to it. However, the woman in white's words made him suspicious. Lord Alcohol, what's so special about that egg? Lin Xian asked with a voice transmission. That egg isn't simple. It's indeed a type of life essence, Lord Alcohol said. However, I can't consume it. Don't give it to anyone either. Some of my memories have been sealed, but I should recognize it subconsciously, Lord Alcohol said after some thought. Since Lord Alcohol said it was important, Lin Xian definitely wouldn't hand it over. It looks like I can only deal with the black-robed man. Lin Xian made up his mind and sent a voice transmission. How long do you need to recover? Lin Xian's voice sounded in the woman in white's mind. Her delicate body trembled as she sent a voice transmission. You can attack at any time. Lin Xian confirmed the battle plan with her before saying to the black-robed man, I agree. Whoosh. The black fog dissipated as the black-robed man's voice sounded. Go and cut through her defense. Lin Xian held the crimson flame sword in his hand and walked forward slowly. Halfway through, he suddenly attacked. In a corner, the air vibrated as a sword beam flashed with astonishing sword intent. Bang! The black fog tumbled and formed a shield that entangled the sword chi and constantly melted it. Brat, you're courting death. The black-robed man was furious. He didn't expect Lin Xian to attack him, nor did he expect Lin Xian to discover his location. Wind fusion stance. Since Lin Xian had made his move, he wouldn't stop. He brandished his sword chi and attacked the black-robed man. At the same time, the woman in white attacked as well. She struck out with palm shadows with astonishing momentum. The strange sword chi disappeared and reappeared out of thin air, slashing at the black-robed man's back. The palm shadows that filled the sky blocked his escape route. Lin Xian and the woman in white worked together for the first time. They had great chemistry. You can't hurt me. The black-robed man sneered as his body turned into black fog and merged into the air. My body is illusory. You can't hit me. The black-robed man laughed as he floated in the air. As for you, you actually dared to go against the Nether Hall. How foolish. Whoosh. The air fluctuated as a thick sword chi flew out and pierced through the black fog. Explode! Lin Xian shouted. Crackle! With a loud sound, golden lightning arcs danced and formed a curtain of lightning in the air, completely enveloping the black fog. Chi! 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 Ah! The black-robed man screamed as he transformed back into his human form and rolled in the air. Nether flash. With a flash of black light, the black-robed man disappeared and reappeared in another direction. There were many small transparent holes on his body, and there was a burnt smell coming from him. He looked very miserable. I didn't expect you to have the lightning attribute. The woman in white exclaimed as she looked at Lin Xian with curiosity. Brat, you dare to hurt me? I'll refine you into a slave and make you wish you were dead. The black-robed man's voice was hoarse and filled with killing intent. Lin Xian smiled faintly. Cut the crap. I've killed more than one monster like you. Are you Nether Dozen? What? You've killed people from the Templar Hall? The black-robed man was furious as the black fog on his body rose and formed a ferocious ghost head behind him. Let me do it. The woman in white had a serious expression. Lin Xian nodded and retreated. He knew that the black-robed man was as powerful as the woman in white, but he was suppressed by the space. I'll help from the side, Lin Xian said. His sword intent and lightning had a restraining effect on the black-robed man. The woman in white nodded slightly and then floated out with multicolored light flying out from her body. Flickering light passing shadow. It was as if thousands of figures were dancing. Light and shadow danced as vast spiritual power vibrated, causing the void to tremble. The woman in white and the black-robed man fought and moved quickly. Lin Xian used his purple spirit eyes and could barely keep up with their speed. Too fast. Lin Xian smiled bitterly as he realized that he could not intervene. Boom! There was a violent collision. Blood flowed from the corner of the woman in white's mouth as she retreated. A look of pain appeared on her peerless face. On the other hand, the black-robed man's aura surged as the black fog behind him filled the sky and flooded half of the cave. He waved his hand and dozens of black fog turned into poisonous dragons that pounced on the woman in white. Wind thunder slash. Lin Xian swung his sword. The sword radiance shone and cut the poisonous dragons in half. Golden electric arcs danced at the cut. Humph! Hell prison. The black-robed man attacked Lin Xian again as 4 black chains appeared out of thin air in 4 directions. Chapter 140. For chains formed by black fog appeared beside Lin Xian again. Phantom thunder step. Lin Xian used his spiritual energy to form a lightning body, but his real body dodged quickly. The black fog flashed and the black chains shrouded the lightning body, controlling it. At this moment, the white-clothed woman and the black-robed man were fighting again. The white-clothed woman's palm technique was exquisite. Every time she struck, thousands of rays of light would appear and dissipate all the black fog that approached her. However, she was injured after all. Every battle would affect the injuries in her body, causing her to be in extreme pain. For a moment, the white-clothed woman was at a disadvantage. Wind thunder cut. Sword intent filled the sky, and with the power of wind and thunder, it suddenly slashed towards the black-robed man. Swish! Swish! A sword chi that was dozens of feet long slashed down. Golden lightning flashed in the void and attacked the black-robed man. This attack was very sudden. The black-robed man was injured by the lightning and quickly dispersed. After he used the nether prison, he did not pay much attention to it. However, he did not expect it to be an illusion. Nether illusion ghost claw. A red light flashed in the black-robed man's eyes. A huge black ghost claw appeared in front of Lin Xian. Bang! The ghost claw slammed down, causing the air to explode. The force was enough to break a mountain. Lin Xian wanted to escape, but he found that his surroundings were sealed. He could only resist. Spirit severing protection sword chi. A red sword light appeared on Lin Xian's body. At the same time, he activated the ancient armor on his body to block the attack. Faint ripples appeared. Lin Xian's body formed a shadow of armor and wrapped him up. Rumble. When the black ghost claw touched Lin Xian, the red sword chi around his body shattered instantly. He felt as if he was hit by a huge mountain. The blood in his body churned, and his spiritual chi shook. He felt that his body was about to shatter. Fortunately, the ancient armor's defense blocked most of the attack. This time, he escaped with his life. Boom! Lin Xian's body flew out and crashed into the ground below, creating a deep pit. Damn! So powerful! Lin Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was a little ferocious. His entire body was in intense pain, and he even suffered internal injuries. If it wasn't for the ancient armor, this strike would have been enough to take his life. He took out a goblet of spirit wine and quickly downed it. Then, he used the longevity incantation to suppress his injuries before slowly rising to his feet. He's not dead? The black-robed man who was fighting with the white-clothed woman sensed that Lin Xian was still alive and was greatly surprised. That strike of his was more than enough to kill a martial artist in the third sky of the spiritual ocean realm, but Lin Xian was only injured. You have quite a few treasures on you. When you die, they'll all be mine. The black-robed man sneered. Once again, a huge, ghostly hand was formed, emitting a boundless aura in the air. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he felt the threat of death looming over him. Fortunately, the white-robed woman acted in time and destroyed the ghostly hand in the sky. Moreover, she attacked with all her might, not giving the black-robed man any chance to escape. Lin Xian stood on the ground with a cold look in his eyes. He had to get rid of the black-robed man as soon as possible, or else he would end up in a miserable state. As long as there was another nether ghostly hand, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Try this. Lin Xian took out the talisman treasure he got from Ling Feng. Injecting spirit power, the octagonal stone bloomed with light and a huge pressure appeared. Feeling this pressure, the white-clothed woman and the black-robed man in the air were both shocked. If they were in the outside world, they wouldn't be afraid. However, in this trial by Bloodland, their strength was suppressed. This kind of method could already threaten their lives. Whoosh! The black-robed man made a prompt decision and rushed towards Lin Xian in a flash. Retreat! The white-clothed woman shouted as she used her movement technique in an attempt to stop him. Go! Lin Xian threw out the talisman treasure. The black mountain peak appeared in the air. The hole on it was gone, but the light was somewhat dim. It slowly rotated and pressed towards the void. Nether flash! The black-robed man dodged and arrived in front of Lin Xian. Kid, die! The black, ghostly claw appeared and a baleful aura filled the air. It was eerie and terrifying. Lin Xian felt the aura of death and all the hair on his body stood up. He activated the ancient armor with all his strength. At the same time, his sword intent continued to rise and lightning surrounded his body. In an instant, Lin Xian used all his methods. Pong! The black ghostly claw slammed down, but it was sent flying by the white-clothed woman. The fierce energy exploded in front of Lin Xian. The three figures retreated. The black-robed man was locked in by the black mountain peak, and the white-clothed woman retreated with a pale face. Lin Xian spat out blood and flew backwards. Many of the bones in his body were almost broken, and he had suffered serious internal injuries. It could be said that this was the first time he had suffered such serious injuries since he started cultivating. Putong! Lin Xian crashed into the mountain wall, creating a human-shaped crack before falling to the ground. He endured the pain and drank the spirit wine while circulating the longevity secret art. The spirit sea in his body vibrated. Rings of green spirit power gushed out and repaired his body. The longevity secret art released its power and brought life to Lin Xian's broken body. In another direction, the black-robed man resisted the black mountain peak with all his strength. The black mist on his body continued to expand and formed a 3-foot-tall skeleton man. He raised his hands and resisted the black mountain peak. Don't let him escape. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said. The white-clothed woman's body was surrounded by light like a fairy. She summoned a lotus and stood in the void, creating a hazy scene. Slash! The green lotus was like a sharp sword that cut through the void. The light shone brightly and covered the front. Heaven's shaking netherworld. The black-robed man shouted. Black blood flowed out of his body as if he had used some forbidden technique. The aura on his body rose and pushed the black mountain peak away. Rumble. The green lotus slashed and collided with the black mist. A terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Lin Xian used his purple spirit eyes. He found that the black-robed man was seriously injured but not dead. Have a taste of this. He took out the green gauntlet. He didn't have much spirit power left. He could only use it one more time. A white light shone. Lin Xian slowly raised his left hand. Let's end this. An energy pillar as thick as a water tank shot out and flew towards the black-robed man. Green lotus heaven trapping. The white-clothed woman also waved her arm. A green lotus split into several illusions and froze the void. Feeling the danger of death, the black-robed man frantically tried to escape. Bang! 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 He charged left and right. Each time, he brought a huge amount of energy, but each time, he was bounced back. The white-clothed woman didn't have it easy either. Every time the black-robed man hit her, she would spit out blood. The void was frozen. The black-robed man was locked in midair and couldn't escape. White light flashed and drowned him. Since I'm going to die, let's die together. The black-robed man roared crazily. His body kept expanding. Oh no, he's going to self-destruct. The white-clothed woman's face turned pale. At the same time, she activated her strongest defense. Lin Xian also used all his remaining spirit power to activate the ancient armor. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion. The entire void was annihilated. Violent energy scattered in all directions and covered everything. Outside the red door, Zhang Jun and the others waited anxiously. All of a sudden, a wisp of terrifying energy seeped out through the crack in the door. Just the shockwaves from this energy were enough to cause the space around them to tremble and rumble. What kind of power is this? The disciples looked ahead in horror. Chapter 141. The disciples outside the blood-colored door were shocked by the terrifying power. They didn't know what had happened inside and could only guess. Inside the door, the light gradually faded and dust settled. The surroundings were a mess, and the air was still filled with a terrifying aura. Lin Xian's face was pale, and he gasped for breath. At the moment of the explosion, he frantically activated his defense, but the power was too strong, and he felt like his body was going to shatter. Fortunately, at the critical moment, a black vortex appeared in front of him and sucked away all the terrifying energy. That was how he managed to escape a calamity. The bronze gauntlets and ancient armor on his body were cracked, and he estimated that they would shatter after a few uses. The mountain talisman turned into dust and disappeared in the air. He circulated the art of longevity as he looked around. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched. In front of him, the white-clothed girl had fallen to the side, and blood was flowing out of her body. "Are you okay?" Lin Xian walked over with difficulty. The white-clothed girl was heavily injured, and her consciousness was unclear. She opened her mouth slightly, and then fainted. Lin Xian was shocked, but when he sensed that the girl was still alive, he sighed in relief. Taking out a cup of spirit wine, Lin Xian poured it down the girl's throat. Then he sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. 2 hours later, Lin Xian opened his eyes. Although his injuries wouldn't heal immediately, he could at least move. Standing up and stretching his limbs, Lin Xian looked ahead. There was a path there, but he didn't know where it led. He bent down slightly and carried the white-clothed girl on his back, and then walked into the depths of the cave. Feeling the warmth on his back, Lin Xian's heart beat violently. He had never carried a girl on his back, especially such a beautiful girl. Fortunately, his willpower was strong, and he quickly calmed his mind. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian walked deeper into the cave. Drip, drip, droplets of water fell from the walls above, and there were some puddles on the ground. Lin Xian stepped on them, and they splashed up. After a while, he reached the end. There was also a pool in front of him, but it wasn't blood, but water. The space wasn't big, only a third of the size of the outer sanctum's main hall. There was a pool in the middle, which took up almost half of the space, surrounded by walls. Other than that, there was nothing else. Lin Xian put the white-clothed girl down and then looked around. He realized that this wasn't a land of inheritance, but just a figment of the imagination of the disciples outside. However, he didn't come out empty-handed. On the surrounding walls, there were some carvings. Many of them were martial arts techniques, which made Lin Xian very happy. These seemed to be Sans Ho. Lord Alcohol's eyes were sharp, so he could tell at a glance. Sans Ho is also not bad. In any case, I have obtained the Wind Emperor's sword. It can be considered a type of inheritance. Lin Xian was very content. He looked at them one by one, and realized that the martial arts on them were not very good. Some of them were even inferior to profound rank martial arts. With a sigh, Lin Xian sat down. At this time, the white-clothed girl also woke up. There was a trace of confusion in her limpid eyes, followed by intense pain. Lin Xian supported her and slowly injected a trace of spirit energy into the girl's body. He realized that the longevity art had an extremely strong recovery effect, far surpassing that of ordinary cultivation techniques. Nourished by Lin Xian's spirit energy, the white-clothed girl's face had a trace of redness. "My name is Lin Xian, a disciple of the Black Sky sect. How should I address you?" Lin Xian retracted his hand and handed over a pot of spirit wine. "Shunjingqiu." The white-clothed girl took the spirit wine and said softly, "Can you tell me in detail what you are looking for?" Lin Xian asked, showing a curious look. Shunjingqiu shook her head. "Actually, I was ordered to find this thing. I don't know the details." Lin Xian was stunned. He didn't expect such an answer. Next, the two fell silent and recovered their bodies. A day later, Lin Xian woke up from hunger. He was in the first sky of the spiritual ocean realm and was far from being able to fast. He needed a large amount of food to replenish his energy. Opposite him, Shun Jingqiu's face was also slightly red. She held her stomach unnaturally. "I'm hungry." Lin Xian's face fell. "Let's see what's there." He stood up and walked to the front of the pool. After a day of recovery, the two of them were much better. Their cultivation had also recovered a little. At this moment, the two of them stood in front of the pool and kept looking. Splash, splash. As if responding to Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu, a sound came from the water. Lin Xian used his purple spirit eyes and looked down. A few black shadows swam quickly, spitting out bubbles from time to time. "There are fish." Lin Xian's face lit up. Shen Jingqiu also smiled happily. "Watch me." Lin Xian flicked his finger. A golden arc flew into the water and disappeared in a flash. A moment later, a low voice sounded. Then, a few black shadows floated up. They were a type of fish that was completely red. They were about a meter long and looked very ordinary. It's actually young fish." Lord Alcohol was surprised. "But their bloodline isn't pure." Lin Xian was too hungry. He ignored Lord Alcohol's words and stared straight at the fish. A total of 3 appeared. Lin Xian scooped them up and cleaned them up. "There's no fire." He scratched his head and took out a saber artifact. He skewered the red young fish. "Let me do it." Shen Jingqiu smiled bitterly. She flipped her palm and a ball of flame appeared. No one would have thought that a day would come when a treasure artifact and cultivation technique would be used to grill fish. The 3 big fishes were eaten up by the 2 of them, and they breathed a sigh of relief and satisfaction. "It's time to go back." Lin Xian prepared to leave. However, when they returned to the blood-red door, they sadly found that they couldn't open it at all. "How can this be?" Lin Xian frowned. "I remember that there was a force that sucked us in that day," Shen Jingqiu said. "But there's nothing here." The 2 of them looked at each other and decided to conduct a thorough search. After searching for a while, they found nothing. Finally, Lin Xian and Lord Alcohol returned to the pool. "This pool?" Shen Jingqiu was puzzled. "This is the only place we haven't explored. Why don't we go down and take a look?" Lin Xian was also curious. After making the decision, the 2 of them didn't go down immediately. Instead, they focused on recovering their cultivation. No one knew what was under the pool. Even Lord Alcohol couldn't explore it. 2 days later, the 2 of them had recovered about 70% to 80% of their cultivation. They finally decided to go down and investigate. Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu drilled into the water after activating their spirit energy defenses. The water wasn't cold. On the contrary, it was warm. The 2 of them continued to sink, startling the surrounding young fish. Lin Xian used his purple spirit eyes to scan his surroundings. He discovered a huge black shadow below. Shen Jingqiu also noticed the abnormality. The 2 of them discussed and decided to continue sinking. With Lin Xian's current cultivation, he could stay underwater for an hour without taking a breath. If he stayed underwater for any longer, he wouldn't be able to take it. However, Shen Jingqiu's cultivation was very high. She probably wouldn't have this problem. The 2 of them were very fast. It didn't take long for them to reach the black shadow. "This is..." Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He was shocked. Chapter 142. Lin Xian looked ahead in shock. His eyes were filled with astonishment. In front of him was a dilapidated building. It was split in half from the middle. The cut was even, as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. As for the stone pillars of the palace, they were piled up with skulls. They were extremely terrifying. Lin Xian was shocked. He slowly descended and arrived at the top of the building. There was a chilly aura that made people feel uncomfortable all over. Shen Jingqiu also landed and walked in with Lin Xian. There were dozens of skeletal corpses lying on the ground. The surrounding water seemed to have no effect on them. One of the corpses stood proudly. The flesh on his body was still there, as if he was still alive. However, his head was missing. Only a headless corpse was left standing there. Could it be that the pillars outside were built with the heads of these people? Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. But where's this person's head? Shen Jingqiu was puzzled. Since his body was indestructible, his head must be the same. However, there was no such head outside. The two of them couldn't figure it out. Lin Xian shook his head and began searching around. There are words here. Xin Jingqiu transmitted her voice. Lin Xian walked over and found a row of crooked words on the ground. They're here. The person who carved the words clearly had a high cultivation because Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu could feel an aura of despair from the words. These corpses were at least at the harmonious spirit realm, but there were no wounds on their bones. It was likely that their heads were injured and killed in one blow. Lord Alcohol analyzed again. A group of harmonious spirit realm cultivators, killed in one blow. Lin Xian was speechless. The elders of the Black Heaven sect were only at the harmonious spirit realm, but all the corpses in front of them were at the same level. In other words, people at the elders' level were also killed in one blow. Just who was it that had such power? Who were they? On the side, Shen Jingqiu also noticed this. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock, and she was speechless for a long time. There's another palace below. Lin Xian looked down. It was as if the underground world had been cut open. On both sides were rocks from the bottom of the sea, and in the middle was a huge crack. The two of them quickly descended and finally arrived at the second palace. It was also cut in half and filled with corpses. However, there were clearly more people here, and there were also some broken swords and sabers left behind. Lin Xian discovered that the lowest grade of these weapons was a profound grade treasure, but now they were all broken. There were words here too. Shen Jingqiu pointed to the ground and said with an unnatural expression, "They're here. The item is missing." He did not seem to have finished speaking. He wondered if there was a third palace. Lin Xian was curious. "I can feel an aura from below," Shen Jingqiu said. "I don't have much time left. I need to take a breather." Lin Xian was a little hesitant. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Come back quickly." The two of them were like agile fish, sinking quickly. In front of him, there was a bright light. "There's a palace. It hasn't been destroyed." The two of them were overjoyed, increasing their speed. Whoosh! A black shadow appeared and attacked the two of them. The water stirred and surged endlessly. A huge force pressed down on Lin Xian, causing him to feel stifled. Lin Xian flashed and dodged quickly. However, due to the resistance in the water, his speed was slower than usual. Dang! He raised his hand and struck out with the triple mountain suppressing hand, colliding with the black shadow. Moreover, he borrowed the recoil and quickly retreated. After retreating far away, he discovered that the black shadow was actually the tentacle of an octopus. Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu did not dare to stay. They ran with all their might towards the palace below. The tentacle was like a sharp sword, slashing at the two of them. Wind-splitting style. Lin Xian slashed out with his sword. The water in front of him seemed to be split apart, flowing to the sides. This was a new sword skill he had comprehended when he was comprehending the Wind Emperor's sword. He did not expect it to be so effective in the water. Chi-Chi. Seeing that the tentacle behind them was about to reach them, Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu finally entered the palace. Bo! Bo! It was as if they had entered another space. There was no water in the palace, but it was filled with spirit chi. Phew! Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It was almost time for him to breathe. Fortunately, there was no water here. Outside, the octopus tentacle seemed to be afraid of the palace. It did not attack, but quickly left. Let's see what's inside. Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu were still searching. Damn! It's a treasure! Lin Xian exclaimed. He discovered that the shelves in front of him were filled with weapons. Each of them was engraved with inscriptions. Lin Xian took a liking to a long sword and reached out to grab it. Hua! The long sword shattered into tiny pieces and scattered on the ground. How could this be? He tried again and discovered that all the weapons could not be used. Beside him, Shen Jingqiu also shook her head. The treasure bottle in her hand also shattered quickly. These things were all broken. It was just that their appearance did not change. The two of them were disappointed and quickly walked into the inner palace. Inside, there was a bronze coffin lying there quietly. On top of it, there was a plate with 2 eggshells. However, they were both broken and there was nothing inside. This, Shen Jingqiu exclaimed. Could it be life essence? Lin Xian had a strange expression as he recalled the green egg in his storage ring. Gently picking up a piece of the eggshell, Lin Xian discovered that it was surprisingly hard and indestructible. At that moment, the green egg in his storage ring shook as though it had come to life. Lin Xian asked Lord Alcohol without batting an eyelid. Perhaps it originally belonged here. Lord Alcohol sighed. Lin Xian was slightly taken aback. He discovered that there was still an empty spot on the tray. Could it be that this egg was here back then? Lin Xian guessed. He planned on taking the broken eggshell away. Let's take one each. Shen Jingqiu was also very interested in the eggshell, so she snatched one. Lin Xian put away the other. What's this pattern? Lord Alcohol was puzzled. Lin Xian looked around and realized that there were 2 dragons engraved on both sides of the bronze coffin. They were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Go around it, Lord Alcohol said. Lin Xian quickly moved and realized that there was a sword engraved on the inward-facing side of the coffin. The sword hilt had a dragon's body. It was very unique and intimidating. Shen Jingqiu walked over and also discovered the engraving. Her beautiful eyes darted around. I seem to have heard of a legend. She stared at the strange sword with a dazed look in her eyes. Legend? Lin Xian asked. What legend? I once heard my master mention it. Back then, they were discussing the weapons of the continent. Some said it was the Overlord's spear, while others said it was the Jade Descent saber. However, my master said it was the Great Dragon Sword. He said that it was the sharpest weapon. Back then, all the elders laughed. They said that the Great Dragon Sword was only a legend and couldn't be taken seriously. I never expected to see this pattern here today. Shen Jingqiu sighed. Could the legend be true? Great Dragon Sword, Lin Xian muttered. He extended his hand and pressed it, hoping to feel it. A dragon's roar exploded in Lin Xian's ears as though a true dragon had come to life. Chapter 143. A loud dragon's roar resounded through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian's soul felt a strong impact, as if there was a real dragon's shadow rushing into his mind. Wong. In his mind, his soul power formed a long sword that buzzed. Sword intent surged from his body. Lin Xian was like a divine sword, resisting the dragon's sword mark. Shen Jingqiu was surprised. She didn't expect the youth in front of her to cause such a phenomenon. Inside Lin Xian's body, Lord Alcohol's expression changed for the first time. Great Dragon Sword mark. I didn't expect to see it here. Xiao Xuanzi, do as I say, Lord Alcohol said in a deep voice. Then, Lord Alcohol taught Lin Xian how to form seals and absorbed the Great Dragon Sword mark into his mind. Boom! As if heaven and earth were split open, Lin Xian felt a wave of dizziness. Then, he was enveloped in a huge amount of energy. The great dragon intent roared in his mind, causing his whole body to tremble. Lin Xian followed Lord Alcohol's teachings and quickly formed seals to seal the great dragon sword mark. The sword image buzzed. Wong, Wong. The mysterious small sword in his body trembled and emitted sword intent. In his mind, the great dragon sword mark sensed the existence of the small sword and immediately calmed down, slowly merging with Lin Xian's sword soul. The process was very fast and happened in an instant. Lin Xian felt his mind become abnormally clear, and the world in front of him seemed to have changed. He removed his hand and found that the great dragon mark on the coffin had disappeared. You absorbed the engraving? Shen Jingqiu was in disbelief. She came from a great sect and was very knowledgeable. Naturally, she could see the danger of the engraving. Even she didn't dare to try. However, this youth in the first layer of the spiritual sea realm actually succeeded. It ran in by itself. I couldn't do anything about it. Lin Xian spread his hands, looking like he didn't do it on purpose. Shen Jingqiu found that she couldn't see through Lin Xian anymore. It was as if this youth was hiding countless secrets. Lin Xian didn't continue the topic. Instead, he said, let's search a bit more. If there's nothing, we'll go back.
Yes.
Shen Jingqiu nodded. She didn't know why, but she felt an inexplicable sense of unease. The two of them split up. Lin Xian walked slowly as he secretly communicated with Lord Alcohol. What exactly is this great dragon sword seal and the legend of the great dragon sword? Do you know, Lord Alcohol? There's still some information left in my memories. Coincidentally, there's this great dragon sword, Lord Alcohol said slowly. Legend has it that when the heavens and earth were first created, 7 sword scars were formed, representing 7 types of origin power. Later, a true dragon fused with one of the sword scars, forming the great dragon sword. In the legends, the great dragon sword is unparalleled in terms of offense. Not only is it a peerless divine weapon, but it also contains supreme offensive saint techniques. It is a treasure that everyone wants to obtain. True dragon, 7 different sources of power, an offensive saint art. Lin Xian was shocked. He didn't expect the great dragon sword to have such a great origin. What you absorbed was a sword seal. Someone must have imitated the great dragon sword by carving it, Lord Alcohol explained. It can be said that this sword seal is the great dragon sword that has been simplified countless times. Lord Alcohol sighed. I never expected that someone here would know about the great dragon sword. Then where's the real great dragon sword? What's in that coffin? Lin Xian asked out of curiosity. Don't let your imagination run wild. No one knows where the great dragon sword is. It's impossible for it to appear here, Lord Alcohol said with a cold snort. If such an item were to appear, the entire world would probably be thrown into chaos. Let's not talk about the cloud state. Even the entire China would be destroyed in an instant. Lin Xian clicked his tongue. From the looks of it, he had underestimated the temptation of the great dragon sword. Study this sword seal well. The things it contains are in no way inferior to any heritage. Lin Xian nodded. He realized that he knew too little about this world. If one day I can obtain the real great dragon sword, how awe-inspiring would that be? Lin Xian yearned for it. He decided that after settling his family's matters, he would head out to train. After fusing with the sword seal, his soul power increased once again. Soon, he would reach the standard of a first-grade inscription master. What made him happy was that his purple spirit eyes had broken through to the 2nd level. Not only could he use his purple spirit eyes to probe, but he could also use soul attacks and other means. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. There was a trace of red light in his eyes, as though he could see through everything. He turned his gaze to the bronze coffin and looked at it curiously. Bang! Bang! A pair of eyes that were like 2 divine lights looked at Lin Xian. Phew! Lin Xian quickly retreated with a look of shock. The gaze from before came from the bronze coffin. Furthermore, he could vaguely see a human figure lying inside. Gulp! Lin Xian swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He realized that this place was a little terrifying. A coffin that could carve the great dragon sword seal must not be a simple existence. Fortunately, the existence in the coffin only glanced at Lin Xian and did not do anything else. Lin Xian felt his hair stand on end. He wanted to leave this place quickly. He found Xin Jingqiu and planned to return. The two of them walked back and came to the exit. However, they realized that the giant octopus was still outside, blocking the way out. What should we do? Xin Jingqiu glanced at Lin Xian. Although Lin Xian's cultivation was weaker than hers, she did not underestimate Lin Xian. Let's see if we can rush out. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. He did not want to stay here any longer. Bow! Bow! Spiritual power armor appeared on their bodies, and they quickly rushed out. Among them, Lin Xian held a long sword in his hand as a precaution. Swoosh! 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 The giant octopus waved its tentacles and stirred up a whirlpool at the bottom of the water, attacking Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu. Such an attack was not something Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu could withstand. They persisted for a while before retreating. Darn it, we are trapped here. Lin Xian's face sank as he kept walking around the hall. Forget it. Let's rest first. This demon beast can't stay here forever. Shen Jingqiu said, when my body fully recovers, I will be able to cast a mystic technique. When that happens, we will be able to leave. The two of them sat down cross-legged and began cultivating. Lin Xian began to comprehend the heritage he had obtained during this period of time. He focused on the Wind Thearchus sword and the Great Dragon Sword seal. Among them, he had obtained the Wind Fusion stance, Hurricane stance, and wind-splitting stance from the Wind Thearchus sword. They were extremely powerful, and this was only a portion of the Wind Thearchus sword. The great dragon sword seal that he had just obtained contained even more. It was not a specific sword skill, but a mysterious and profound concept. Lord Alcohol had told him that the great dragon sword seal was an offensive sacred art that could simulate all kinds of attacks. Although this sword seal was not that perverse, the offensive techniques it contained were rare mystic techniques. Lin Xian's soul power was powerful and his perception was superb. With Lord Alcohol's guidance, he improved rapidly. Bam! Bam! Lin Xian was jolted awake. He felt a chill down his spine as he felt a pair of eyes staring at him. Chapter 144. It was a strange feeling that made Lin Xian feel uneasy. Beside him, Shun Jingqiu opened her eyes as well. A solemn expression appeared on her beautiful face. You felt it too? Lin Xian asked.
Yes.
Shin Jingqiu looked at the bronze coffin. Don't act rashly. Once I recover, we'll leave immediately. Lin Xian took out a flask of spirit wine and allowed Shun Jingqiu to recover fully. Clang! With a loud bang, the bronze coffin opened a little. Lin Xian stood up abruptly, feeling extreme fear. Don't act rashly, Lord Alcohol warned. This aura is so dark. Shin Jingqiu frowned. Could it be an old fart from the Nether Hall? Lin Xian sensed an aura similar to the black-robed man's, but it was different. Could it be that the so-called them on the ground was referring to the Nether Hall? Were those people also killed by the Nether Hall? But why didn't he want the heads? Lin Xian couldn't figure it out, but now wasn't the time to think about it. He and Shun Jingqiu cautiously retreated. An inexplicable suction force was produced as though an invisible abyss was about to devour the two. This power? Could it be that it sucked us in? The two circulated their spirit energy and resisted with all their might. Lin Xian realized that the green egg in his ring was about to be absorbed, and he quickly controlled it in fright. Thankfully, Lord Alcohol was around, preventing the green egg from escaping. By the side, Shun Jingqiu's expression changed drastically as a violent aura fluctuated from her body. It wants to absorb the life essence. Lin Xian understood. Sword intent surged all over his body as the great dragon sword seal in his mind hummed. A sharp sword beam slashed forward. Chi! Chi! The sword slashed down, severing the invisible force. The suction force disappeared, and everything returned to normal. But in the next moment, an even stronger suction force appeared. Let's go. Without any hesitation, the two rushed out of the hall. From their point of view, the bronze coffin was much more powerful than the gigantic octopus. Lin Xian and Shen Jingqiu transformed into two beams of light and dove into the water. Whoosh! Whoosh! The octopus tentacles flew over like mountains. Behind them, the bronze coffin flew out of the palace and chased after them. Lin Xian felt his scalp go numb. He circulated his strength with all his might and fled downwards. Bang! 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 3 water pillars rushed over and slammed into the two of them, causing Lin Xian's qi and blood to roil. I have a kind of life essence on me. He might be coming for me. Hurry up and leave. Shin Jingqiu's expression was solemn. She didn't want Lin Xian to die with her in vain. I have some on me too. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. He had a good impression of the girl in front of him. Behind him, the bronze coffin trembled slightly. The dragons on both sides of the coffin seemed to come alive. They turned into 2 water dragons and roared as they charged forward. On the other side, the giant octopus was not far behind. Although it was afraid of the bronze coffin, it was attracted by the things on the two of them. A huge tentacle, dozens of feet long, blotted out the sky and covered the earth, surging towards Lin Xian and Lin Xian. There's a crack below. It seems like there's a teleportation array, Lord Alcohol said. Lin Xian used his purple spirit eyes and found a crack. He hurriedly told Shin Jingqiu where the two of them were. Clang! Lin Xian split open the crack with his sword and found that there were indeed 2 ancient array platforms inside. At that moment, Shun Jingqiu's body seemed to be pulled by something as she quickly retreated. Damn it! Lin Xian's face was gloomy. Without any hesitation, he soared into the sky. Meteor beyond the heavens. Sword chi was like a rainbow as sword intent surged. Lin Xian used his strongest attack and transformed into a meteor. Outside him, there was a faint dragon figure that roared ferociously. Shen Jingqiu's heart sank bit by bit. The moment she was caught, a bitter smile appeared on her face. Her cultivation was extremely high, and her status was even more honorable. She had come to such a remote place in search of something and was about to die here. At that moment, she thought of many things. In the end, she could only sigh. Am I going to die here? Suddenly, the water currents surged violently as a figure rushed over. It's him. Shun Jingqiu's heart throbbed. She thought that Lin Xian had left long ago. She did not expect. He actually gave up on escaping for me and disregarded his life. Shun Jingqiu's heart was filled with an inexplicable emotion. But what's the use? In her opinion, Lin Xian's cultivation could not change anything. Whoosh! Below, sword intent exploded as the sharp edge of the sword split the water current. The stunning sword slashed at Shan Jingqiu's back. Let's go. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. Shen Jingqiu was in a daze as she stared at the young man in front of her. He had black hair, delicate features, and a somewhat frail body. However, his eyes were as bright as stars and filled with confidence. After that, a violent wave swept over. Lin Xian dodged, grabbed Shen Jingqiu, and quickly ran downwards. With his left hand holding the beauty's hand, he brandished the sword in his right hand. With a slash, the water current on both sides flew backward. Even the resistance was reduced. Only then did Shen Jingqiu come back to her senses. She felt something strange in her hand, and her face turned slightly red. However, she did not withdraw her hand. Instead, she let Lin Xian hold it. She rejoiced. Just as she was about to give up, this young man had pulled her out of the brink of death. Whoosh! Lin Xian landed on an array platform. Just activate your spiritual energy. That was what Lord Alcohol told him. Shen Jingqiu stood on another array platform and stared at Lin Xian with her beautiful eyes. The array was activated, and white light flashed. Just as the figure was about to disappear, a pouch flew into Lin Xian's hand. At the same time, Shen Jingqiu's voice echoed in his ears. I'm in the Sky Martial region, Flying Moon Pavilion. Finally, the light disappeared, and the figure disappeared. In the blood-colored heavenly palace, the disciples left the blood-red door unwillingly. The trial was about to end, and they did not want to waste any more time. Zheng Jun also stood up unwillingly. He glared fiercely at the blood-colored door, then quickly left. When Lin Xian and Lord Alcohol used the teleportation array to leave, the trial of blood also ended. The time was slightly different from the calculations. It was less than a month, but it was the longest trial in 100 years. In the outside world, white light flashed. Disciples appeared one after another. They all had different expressions, but most of them were filled with joy. After all, they all obtained treasures, and many of them entered the spiritual ocean tier. The elders of the various sects all laughed, looking at the disciples with joy in their hearts. What? Only you came out. Where are the others? In the crowd, the Ling family elder shouted, his face red. In front of him was a Ling family disciple. Under the elder's pressure, he trembled and almost fainted. I don't know. The disciple's voice trembled. Let's wait a little longer. Maybe they're still inside, someone advised. After all, the trial grounds haven't completely closed yet. On the other side, Black Heaven sect. Elder Shui looked at Zheng Jun, who entered the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and his old face bloomed like a chrysanthemum. Elder Duanmu's expression darkened. Why hadn't Lin Xian come out yet? Junior brother Lin entered the final inheritance ground. I wonder what the result is, Morong Qinling said from the side. What? The inheritance ground. Not only the elders of Black Heaven sect, but the elders of the other forces also knew about this. After all, many people saw Lin Xian enter the blood-colored door. At this moment, everyone looked in the direction of Black Heaven sect, their eyes burning. Chapter 145. Everyone looked in the direction of the Black Heaven sect with undisguised passion in their eyes. Elder Duanmu, Elder Hua, and the rest caught Morong Qianling and kept asking her questions. Elder Shui stood at the side with a gloomy face. In the distance, the elders of the Ling family almost vomited blood when they heard the news. Their bodies trembled nonstop. "Get ready to receive Lin Xian," Elder Duanmu said in a deep voice. "No matter what, we have to protect him." He knew that inheritances were too important, and other forces might try to meddle in it. Even if they didn't make a move on the surface, they would make a move in the dark. The other elders also nodded. They also knew the seriousness of the matter. Everyone waited anxiously. As long as Lin Xian came out, a group of people would probably swarm him. However, after a period of time, the exit gradually faded and was about to disappear. Lin Xian's figure still hadn't come out. He couldn't have died inside, right? Someone gloated. "It's possible. Does he really think that it's so easy to get an inheritance warrior?" Secretly, many people sneered. On the Black Heaven sect's side, the elders were anxious and asked Morong Qianling and the rest again. Elder Shui sneered and said indifferently, "There's no need to wait. The seal is closed. Dead geniuses are nothing. There's no need for us to worry about him." Everyone was silent. Morong Qianling and the rest had a look of disbelief. However, no matter what, they couldn't enter. They could only wait 7 years for the seal to be released again. The other forces secretly heaved a sigh of relief. If Lin Xian really brought out the inheritance martial arts, there would be chaos here. With Lin Xian's talent, he would definitely be able to advance quickly. After a few years, he might enter the 3 spirit realms. If he added his abnormal sword intent, most people in the cloud state wouldn't be his match. The Black Heaven sect would also surpass the 3 sects and become the overlord of the cloud state. This was a situation that no one wanted to see. Other than the Black Heaven sect, the most sorrowful were the elders of the Ling family. 10 elite disciples entered, and only 1 came out. This was unbearable for them. 2 of the Ling family's elders fainted on the spot. The others were also trembling. Lin Xian. The group of elders gnashed their teeth. They learned from the surviving disciple that the fall of the Ling family disciples was closely related to Lin Xian. Originally, they wanted to get rid of Lin Xian, but who would have thought that they would be killed by an ant instead? However, Lin Xian did not come out, so they were very sullen and had nowhere to vent their resentment. "Let's go." Many forces left one after another. Elder Duanmu sighed. Maybe it takes a lot of time to obtain the legacy martial arts. Maybe Lin Xian is still alive. It's possible that he will come out the next time it opens. Everyone was silent. They knew that this was just a type of consolation. The possibility of this was too small, almost impossible. Left with no other choice, they waited for another day before leaving. Inside the blood-colored palace, in the underwater world, the huge octopus floated powerlessly as all of its blood essence had been sucked dry. A bronze coffin was suspended at the side, its surface flickering with light. A faint green chi floated in the air and gradually converged, forming a human figure above. A green-haired young man appeared. His skin was pale, and he had a strange smile on his face. After stretching his body, the green-haired young man turned into a ray of light and arrived at the array platform below. He shot out a ray of light and disappeared. The space vibrated and a ray of light danced. A human figure appeared in the air. Whoosh! The human figure landed on the ground, his body trembling slightly. This person was Lin Xian. He quickly circulated the art of longevity to remove the side effects of the teleportation. After a while, he opened his eyes. Spreading out his soul power, Lin Xian cautiously scanned his surroundings. This was a cave, and there was no one around. It was extremely desolate. Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief and walked out. After passing through a long tunnel, he walked out of the cave. He was surrounded by tall mountains, and there were occasional wolf howls. Seems like it's in the forest. I wonder if it's still in Yunzhou? Lin Xian planned to walk out of the mountains first before making any plans. Whoosh! He turned into a ray of light and flew into the distance. Green trees, green mountains, and flowing water. A boundless aura assaulted his face. In the forest, a few human figures were moving quickly. Sister Yu, the demonic beast cave is in front. The ink spirit flower is there. With the ink spirit flower, Master Hong will definitely help us. The girl's voice had a hint of desire. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 5 human figures rushed forward and soon arrived in front of a cave. Over there was a purple plant with a black flower blooming. Each petal was like black jade. It's really the ink spirit flower. The girl was pleasantly surprised. She quickly rushed forward. Wait. The young man beside her pulled her back. Don't rush. Let's deal with the problem first. The girl seemed to have understood. Her face turned serious as she looked at the cave with her beautiful eyes. There's a silver cloud beast inside. It's a peak rank 3 demonic beast. I heard that it's not weaker than a rank 4 demonic beast. You guys have to be careful. The leader was a handsome young man. He said to the 4 people behind him, Don't worry, Brother Lon. If we work together, we can still kill a rank 3 demonic beast. The young men were very confident in Brother Lon. You guys set up a sword array. I'll lure it out, the young man called Brother Lon said cautiously. The 4 of them stood in 4 different directions. They held long swords and formed a sword art. Spiritual energy surged out of their bodies and entered the ground. It quickly formed a complicated pattern. When Brother Lon saw it, he flipped his palm and took out a piece of dead wood. He lit it up. Faint green smoke rose and emitted a strange smell. It spread out of the cave. Roar. Soon, an excited roar came from the cave. Then, a silver figure flashed out. Whoosh. The silver figure left a trace in the air. Its huge body had already arrived in front of everyone. Bang. Bang. It landed on the ground and stirred up a cloud of dust. The ground trembled. This was a strange demonic beast. It had the body of a bull and the tail of a snake. Its head was like a flower. It had no facial features, but 5 long stamens that kept rolling outside. Each stamen was a few meters long and silver in color. Its body also seemed to be made of silver. Sensing the strange smell in the air, the silver cloud beast was excited. The 5 colorful petals on its face kept shaking, and the long stamens danced like spiritual snakes. Brother Lon waved his long sword. Sword chi streaked across the air and slashed at the silver cloud beast. Roar. The 5 petals opened up and let out a shocking roar. The silver stamens rolled like spears and stabbed at the sword chi in the air. Brother Lon sneered and shouted, Burn! Red flames appeared on the sword chi and burned fiercely. Sizzle. The silver cloud beast was caught off guard. It was burned by the flames on the sword chi and roared angrily. It leaped forward, its 5 long stamens turning into nimble whips, constantly waving them about. Bang! Brother Lon quickly retreated and brought the silver cloud beast to the middle of the 4 people. In the next moment, the ground flashed and covered it. Chapter 146. The moment the silver cloud beast landed, the 4 of them moved. They each used a sword technique and merged it into the air. A sharp aura spread out. Light shone under their feet. Sword chi rushed out. It was as red as fire and slashed towards the silver cloud beast. Clang, clang. The fiery red sword chi struck the silver cloud beast, and sparks flew everywhere. Roar. The silver cloud beast was furious. It roared into the sky. The 5 petals opened up and spat out a powder-like thing. It danced in the air. Oh no, it's poisonous powder. Hold your breath. The young man called Brother Lon shouted. The 4 of them used their spiritual power to protect themselves. At the same time, they kept changing their sword techniques. Wind and fire sky. In the next moment, the sword formation shone brightly. Countless streaks of sword chi spun quickly, forming 2 winged shadows. Fan. The young man in the lead shouted. Whoosh. The shadow flapped its wings, bringing with it a strong wind. The sharp sword chi was mixed in it as it rushed towards the silver cloud beast. Chi. When the poisonous powder touched the wind and sword chi, they dissolved each other. The void trembled. The silver cloud beast's attack failed. It was furious. The snake tail behind it kept slapping the ground. The 5 petals on its head glowed. Its demonic aura grew. Roar. The demonic aura intertwined, forming a huge demonic shadow. Its body flashed, and it rushed towards the group. Trap. The sword chi changed again. It intertwined into a sword net and covered the front. Boom, boom, boom. The silver cloud beast's body crashed into the net, making a shocking sound. The violent energy wave hit the group. Puff. Some of them couldn't withstand the power and spat out blood. Crack. Crack. The entire sword formation broke. The sword shadows disappeared. Oh no, this silver cloud beast is a rank 4 demonic beast. The young man in the lead exclaimed. Run. The group was forced to stop the sword formation. Their aura was tumbling. They couldn't use all their power. After the silver cloud beast attacked, it attacked again. 5 silver stamens danced in the air and rushed towards the group. Every single one of them flew towards a single person. There was venom on them, and the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. Clang, clang. The group waved their swords to block, but the power of a rank 4 demonic beast was not something they could resist. Puff. One of the youths failed and a bloody hole appeared on his shoulder. Moreover, the poisonous gas quickly spread through his body. You're courting death, the youth in the lead shouted loudly. With a shake of his sword, he faced the silver cloud beast head-on. Sword she crisscrossed with an astonishing momentum. Not far away, a figure quietly approached, hiding in the woods. This figure was none other than Lin Xian, who had just walked out of the cave. He was running through the forest, and when he heard the sounds of fighting, he rushed over. Lin Xian squatted on a branch and looked ahead through the dense leaves. When he saw the appearance of the silver cloud beast, he exclaimed. He had never seen a demonic beast like this before. This group of people might be in danger. Lin Xian analyzed the situation in his heart. He had already seen how powerful the silver cloud beast was, and only the youth leading the group could handle it. Judging from their appearances, they should be disciples of aristocratic families. It was a good opportunity to ask them. Lin Xian decided to save them. Sword will surged as he slashed out with 2 fingers. A sword arc flew out and merged with the wind. The air surged slightly before returning to normal. Below, the people and demonic beasts who were in a frenzy were suddenly shocked. They felt a sharp sword will surge toward them. The aura made them despair. The youth leading the group quickly looked around but did not find any sword chi. Just as he was feeling suspicious, the silver cloud beast opposite him screamed. A 2-meter-long sword chi appeared out of thin air behind it and slashed its body, causing blood to splatter. The youth leading the group's pupils constricted. He had fought with the silver cloud beast before, so he naturally knew how powerful it was. Not only was this demonic beast powerful, but its defense was also astonishing. Its body was as if it was made of silver and invulnerable. However, that sword chi had injured it. How could he not be shocked? The silver cloud beast cried out in pain. It could not find the culprit, so it could only vent its anger on the 5 people in front of it. Oh no! The youth leading the group's heart sank, seeing the angry silver cloud beast charging toward them. At this moment, a sword aura shot into the sky from afar and arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. The sword chi surged and the long sword slashed across. The void seemed to be cut open. Everyone was stunned, but the silver cloud beast was still running. However, after a few steps, its head was separated from its body, and it fell to the ground. A skinny figure appeared in front of everyone like a breeze. Lin Xian looked at the silver cloud beast on the ground and felt satisfied. That sword move just now was the result of his comprehension of the great dragon sword seal and imitating the meteor sword technique. Although Flying Star was powerful, it consumed too much spiritual power. Each time he used it, it would consume almost 1/3 of his spiritual power. Even after he entered the spiritual sea realm, it was still the same. The great dragon sword mark that he had obtained contained an offensive saint spell that could imitate all kinds of attacks. Under his test, that sword attack was created. The youth leading the group looked at Lin Xian and said in a low voice, "Thank you for your help, brother. Tong Lan is very grateful." The other 4 also saluted with their fists and said, "Thank you, young warrior." Lin Xian smiled, and then his expression changed slightly. He looked at the injured person and said, "He is poisoned. He needs to be treated quickly." Tong Lan and the others quickly ran over, sealed the poison, and fed him pills. Lin Xian's sword chi danced on his fingertips as he cut off 5 petals of the silver cloud beast. At the same time, he dug out the demon crystal and put it in his storage ring. These petals can detoxify the poison. Feed him, Lin Xian said. This knowledge was taught to him by Lord Alcohol. Tong Lan did as she was told and fed him one of the petals. After a while, the black gas on the injured disciple dissipated and turned into poison that was expelled from his body. It worked. The girl's face was filled with joy. Thank you so much this time, Tong Yu said gratefully. Young warrior, your martial arts are amazing. Who is your master? Tong Lan asked curiously. As the danger was gone, the group relaxed and became curious about Lin Xian, who had suddenly appeared. Lin Xian touched his nose and smiled bitterly. I am Lin Xian from Yun State. I came here by accident. Where is this place? Yun State? The group looked at Lin Xian with strange expressions. Tong Yu blinked her big eyes and said, This is Qing State, the boundless mountain range. You really don't know? Lin Xian shook his head and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't run out of Xia country. Qing State was one of the 7 states of Xia country. It was separated from Yun State by Snow State and was very far away. Lin Xian estimated that it would take him at least 2 months to return to Yun State. Young warrior, if you have nothing else to do, why don't you come back with us? Let us repay you for saving our lives. Forget about the repayment, Lin Xian smiled. But I hope to go back with you. Hearing Lin Xian's reply, the group laughed. Among them, Tong Yu blinked her big eyes and suddenly exclaimed, Oh, I forgot about the ink spirit flower. Her beautiful figure flashed as she ran towards the cave entrance to pick the ink spirit flower. Whoosh! A beam of sword chi flew out from the dense forest and attacked Tong Yu. The angle of the attack was extremely sharp, making people feel apprehensive. Chapter 147. This sword chi came so suddenly that the Tong family disciples didn't react in time. By the time they reacted, the sword chi had already arrived above Tong Yu's head. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. His soul force was powerful and had already sensed it. When the martial artist hidden in the dark attacked, he moved. Golden electric arcs jumped under his feet. Lin Xian seemed to merge into the wind, his speed extremely fast. Sister Yu. Tong Lan's eyes widened in anger. He didn't think that someone would dare to attack the Tong family. Who? Golden electric arcs flashed, and the sword chi crashed down. Tong Lan and the others' faces changed drastically as they ran forward crazily. When they saw the scene in front of them, they secretly let out a sigh of relief. A terrifying crack appeared in front of the cave entrance, but no one was injured. Tong Yu and Lin Xian stood 15 meters away, unharmed. Sister Yu. Tong Lan ran over. Brother Lan, I'm fine. Young hero Lin saved me. Tong Yu's face was pale, obviously frightened. However, luckily, she wasn't injured and successfully plucked the ink spirit flower. Brother Lin, thank you, Tong Lan said seriously. He didn't dare to imagine what would have happened without Lin Xian. Lin Xian nodded slightly, then looked towards the depths of the forest. Tong Lan and the others understood and returned, also turning around with gloomy faces. Hee, your luck isn't bad, to be able to pluck the ink spirit flower. A mocking voice came from the forest. A few figures walked out with powerful auras, looking at Lin Xian and the others with cold smiles. Song Qi. Tong Lan saw the figures in the forest and his pupils constricted. The expressions of the people behind him also became very ugly. Although Lin Xian didn't know who was on the other side, he could vaguely guess from the Tong family disciples' expressions. The people on the other side probably didn't have low statuses, and their strength far surpassed the Tong family. On their side, only Tong Lan was at the 3rd layer of the spiritual ocean tier, while the others were at the 2nd layer. Among the people on the other side, 2 were at the 3rd layer of the spiritual ocean tier. One of them had an abnormally powerful aura at the middle stage of the 3rd layer. What do you want to do? We found the ink spirit flower first, Tong Yu shouted. Song Qi looked at Tong Yu's delicate face and exquisite figure, and his eyes flashed with a trace of passion. However, when he saw Lin Xian beside Tong Yu, he frowned. Just now, it was this brat who ruined his good deed. That sword strike just now was extremely tricky. Not only was it able to protect the ink spirit flower, it was also able to trap Tong Yu without harming her in the slightest. However, this was all his conjecture, and the real situation was destroyed by Lin Xian. Song Qi cautiously looked at Lin Xian. He was somewhat unable to figure out Lin Xian's identity. Your Tong clan is really useless. You even need to find outsiders to be your bodyguards. Song Qi sneered. Nonsense, Brother Lin is not a bodyguard. Tong Yu said angrily, Brother Lin is an elite of the Cloud region. He only acted when he saw that we were in danger. Cloud Prefecture? Song Qi was stunned. He naturally knew of Cloud Prefecture, but why would people from Cloud Prefecture come here? He couldn't figure it out, and he wouldn't think about it. As long as it wasn't a force from Qingzhou, he would just kill it. He gave a look behind him, and the few people behind him instantly understood. I don't care where you're from. A strong young man behind said, Brat, I'll give you a chance. Get lost. Or else, The tall young man stomped his foot, and the ground shattered. Countless cracks spread out like a python's web. Tong Lan and the others' hearts were in their throats. They all looked at Lin Xian, waiting for his answer. In their opinion, although Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier, his sword technique was exceptionally high, and his strength was already comparable to a martial artist at the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. If he acted, then they had a high chance of escaping from Song Qi and the others. However, they also knew that the Song clan's power was stronger than their Tong clan by 30%, and normal people wouldn't dare to provoke them. Tong Yu also stared at Lin Xian nervously, her small hands tightly gripping her sleeves. I've learned quite a few martial arts techniques, but I've never learned the move of rolling, Lin Xian said indifferently. Why don't you demonstrate how to roll? Pooh. The disciples of the Tong clan couldn't help but laugh. Tong Yu even covered her small mouth and laughed. Kid, you're courting death. The tall young man was furious. He had a noble status, and as a disciple of the Tsang clan, no one dared to make fun of him like this. Pong. The muscles on his body bulged like dragons. The tall young man stomped his foot, and the ground shattered. His body flew out like a cannonball. Die. With a punch, the air was rapidly compressed, creating a series of explosions. Retreat. The disciples of the Tong clan all retreated, leaving only Tong Lan and Lin Xian standing in the field. Tong Lan secretly accumulated power, ready to attack at any time. On the side, Lin Xian waved his arm, and a streak of sword chi circled around his arm. Hurricane style, the sword chi pierced out, and a green whirlpool appeared in the surroundings. Violent winds blew, and the air was turbulent. It gathered in front of Lin Xian to form a huge hurricane, attacking the tall young man. Hoochie. A ball of wind spun at high speed, and the energy contained within could crush metal and stone. Rumble. The green hurricane collided with the young man's fist, and turbulence flew everywhere. However, under Lin Xian's control, the wind surged towards the tall young man. The tall young man felt that there were violent winds in all directions, suppressing his body. At the same time, his speed was constantly decreasing. Petty tricks. The tall young man roared, and like a ferocious beast, he tore his chest with both hands. It was as if the void had been torn apart, and a vacuum appeared in front of him. Haha, die. The tall young man broke through the hurricane, and his body moved forward again. He wanted to smash Lin Xian's head with a punch. Tong Lan, who was at the side, arched his body and was ready to attack. Not far away, Song Qi looked at Lin Xian with a cold smile. Suddenly, a streak of sword chi lit up the surroundings like a flash of lightning, sending chills down everyone's spine. Puff. The tall young man flew out, and a cross-shaped wound appeared on his chest. It was deep into his flesh, and his bones could be vaguely seen. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Tong Lan's sword was only half drawn, and it was still in midair. He was shocked, and his understanding of Lin Xian changed again. He used to think that Lin Xian was only comparable to a martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm. Now, it seemed that he could completely kill a martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm. On the other side, Song Qi's face turned ugly. He called for the people behind him to carry the tall young man back. Others didn't know the tall young man's strength, but he was very clear. This young man's name was Tsang Ji, and his cultivation had reached the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm. His strength and defense were even more shocking. A normal martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm was no match for Zhang Ji, and Lin Xian defeated him with one strike. This was almost impossible. Second layer of the spiritual ocean realm, and his sword skills are super strong. When did the Cloud State have such a person? Zhang Qi's eyes flashed. The Cloud State was at the bottom of the Xia State. Not only were the top fighters lacking, but the younger generation was even worse. Among them, there were only a few people in the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon list, which was not enough. Therefore, the martial artists in the other states of the Xia State looked down on the disciples of the Cloud State. However, Lin Xian was obviously an exception. Zhang Qi walked out slowly and said in a low voice, "If you can defeat me, I'll let this go. Otherwise, you can apologize with your death." Chapter 148. Zhang Qi's face was cold as he walked out with his sword. "If you want to fight, I'll accompany you." On the side, Tong Lan stood out, spiritual power surging in his body as he stared ahead. "You?" Zhang Qi was disdainful. "Just a loser. I did lose to you last time, but this time, you can try." Tong Lan's expression was cold, without the slightest hint of retreat. "Forget it, let me do it." Lin Xian's voice was flat, without joy or sorrow. "Brother Lin, don't be rash. He's a martial artist in the middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier," Tong Lan reminded. "Don't worry." Lin Xian patted his shoulder, then turned to look at Zhang Qi. "If I defeat you, those people won't stop me." Zhang Qi sneered. "As long as you can defeat me, they won't make a move." As long as Lin Xian dared to accept the challenge, he had the confidence to kill him. As a martial artist in the middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier, he still had this bit of confidence. Lin Xian flipped his palm and took out the crimson flame sword, the presence on his body gradually becoming fierce. Middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier, far stronger than Zhang Jun, Lin Xian's expression became serious. However, he wasn't afraid. Now that he had the Great Dragon Sword Seal, his strength went up a level, and just a few days ago, his cultivation reached the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. "Let me try to see what level my strength has reached." Lin Xian's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Reckless. Zhang Qi is a martial artist in the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon role. A brat in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier dares to attack. The people on the other side were disdainful. "Brat from the Cloud State, let me show you what sword art is." Zhang Qi pulled out the sword at his waist. The sword light was like the moon, hazy. "Good sword," Lin Xian praised. "You're about to die and still have the mood to care about the sword. What an idiot." The people on the other side mocked again. Lin Xian ignored them and stared at Zhang Qi. He wanted to see what was different about the geniuses from the other states. Full Moon Strike. Zhang Qi used a killing move right from the start. His sword chi was like moonlight, incomparably bright. Not good. It's actually the Cyan Moon Sword technique. Tong Lan was shocked. He had lost to this sword technique. Zhang Qi is so shameless. His cultivation is so high, yet he still uses this kind of sword art. He's obviously bullying others. Tong Yu said angrily. Although Zhang Qi is arrogant, he is not weak. "I wonder if little brother Lin can deal with him," Tong Lan said worriedly. On the other side, the Tsang family's disciples had leisurely expressions. He actually used the Cyan Moon Sword technique to deal with this kid. Isn't he making a mountain out of a molehill? I don't care what sword technique he is using. Since he dared to injure a disciple of the Tsang family, he must atone for his crimes with his death. In the field, the green sword chi drew an arc in the air like a crescent moon, hazy and illusory. Lin Xian thrust it out with his sword. Sword chi gushed out and collided with the crescent sword chi. Chi. There was no rumbling sound, but instead, like a balloon leaking air, the half-moon sword chi continued to shrink and finally disappeared in the air. What? The few of them widened their eyes in disbelief, especially Zhang Qi, whose expression was filled with astonishment. The Cyan Moon Sword technique seemed hazy, but the power of the sword chi was extremely strong. Normally, After learning the Cyan Moon Sword technique, it would not be a problem for him to defeat opponents of the same level. However, such a powerful sword technique was ineffective in front of Lin Xian. What's going on? The Tong family's disciples were also at a loss. Tong Lan's eyes flickered and said with uncertainty, "Brother Lin." Little brother Lin's sword seemed to have hit the flaw of the Cyan Moon Sword technique. Flaw? Even spirit-ranked martial arts have flaws? The Tong family's disciples were confused. Normally, all martial arts have flaws. The higher the rank of the martial arts, the fewer flaws there are. Moreover, even if it is a spirit-ranked martial arts, if the cultivator is not skilled enough, there will still be many flaws. Tong Lan's voice was not loud, but everyone present was a Spirit Sea Realm martial artist, so they all heard it clearly. Song Qi's face darkened. He did not believe that Lin Xian could find the flaw in his sword technique. Guessing. He must be guessing. How could a martial artist from a trashy place like the Cloud State have such eyesight? Song Qi did not believe it. He leaped and attacked first. Shua, shua, shua. Sword Qi danced like moonlight, illuminating the earth. Song Qi's every sword attack was aimed at Lin Xian's vital points. It was extremely powerful and extremely fast. Lin Xian used the Phantom Thunder Steps and dodged continuously. Qi. Song Qi's sword released an arc of sword light and slashed at Lin Xian, cutting him in half at the waist. Whoosh! The figure that was cut in half disappeared, leaving behind only a golden arc of lightning. It's an illusion. Tong Lan and the others were alarmed. It could not be helped. The illusion created by Lin Xian was too real. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to tell. A guy who only knows how to run. If you have the guts, take my attack head-on. Song Qi shouted angrily. Although his sword technique was powerful, he could not catch Lin Xian. This made him feel like he was going crazy. Lin Xian stopped in his tracks with a smile on his face. He had already observed the Cyan Moon Sword technique and could barely use it. Of course, there were still some killing moves that he did not know yet. As long as he comprehended more and used the Great Dragon Sword Seal to modify it, he would be able to use the Cyan Moon Sword technique. This was the real reason why he did not attack. All right, the game is over. Lin Xian's expression changed and the aura on his body became fierce. Splitting wind style. The air in front of him was sucked out and the space seemed to be torn apart. There was an invisible force tearing at Song Qi's body. What is this? Song Qi's expression changed. The spiritual power on his body surged and quickly formed a spiritual power armor. A cyan armor with a bright moon carved on it formed and appeared on Song Qi's body. This was an armor condensed from spiritual power. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the defense. Ka, ka. The sword light flashed and two cracks appeared on the spiritual power armor in front of his chest. Chi. Song Qi was shocked and kept retreating. At the same time, the spiritual power on his body surged and quickly repaired the armor. Whoosh! He retreated to the back and kept gasping for breath. Damn, this kid is too weird. What kind of sword technique is this? There was a trace of fear in Song Qi's heart. He had never seen such a sword technique. He did not even see the trajectory of Lin Xian's long sword. On the opposite side, Lin Xian was also slightly stunned. It did not break? He used half of his strength in this attack. A normal martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm would have been injured, worthy of being a genius in the top 100 of the hidden dragon list. Lin Xian said in a low voice. Song Qi's strength was somewhat out of Lin Xian's expectation. Of course, that was all. Swish, swish, swish. Lin Xian's body swayed, and at the same time, the long sword in his hand kept waving. Every strike landed on Song Qi's body. Pong, pong, pong. The spiritual power armor on Song Qi's body kept changing shape and was about to break. Full moon dance chop. Song Qi was both shocked and angry. He swept his long sword and cyan sword Qi flew out like a full moon. The circular sword Qi circled around and spread out. The disciples of the Tong family and the Tsang family kept retreating. This terrifying sword light shocked them. Lin Xian was the closest and was the first to be hit. The sharp sword light cut towards his waist. Wind thunder chop. His eyes flashed, and the purple spirit pupil quickly and accurately found the flaw. Then, he swung his sword and cut on the flaw again. Ka. Like a mirror breaking, a crack appeared on the full moon sword chi. Chapter 149. Lin Xian's sword slashed at the flaw of Zhang Qi's sword move, causing the full moon sword chi to break. Pong! The sword light flashed and quickly slashed at the armor. Chi golden electric arcs jumped and reflected on Zhang Qi's face. Zhang Qi's armor was cut in half and was about to be scratched by the sword light. At that moment, the speed of Lin Xian's sword slowed down and finally stopped within the spirit power armor. Who? The Tsang family disciples were relieved. That scared me to death. This sword art is too terrifying. What's the use of a good sword art? If your cultivation is too low, you can't break Zhang Qi's defense. Zhang Qi's expression changed again and finally turned into a hideous grin. Haha, you can't even break through my defensive barrier. Go to hell. He swung his sword and stabbed at Lin Xian's left rib. Oh no, it's dangerous. Tong Lan exclaimed. Zhang Qi's spirit energy was too strong. Lin Xian's left hand slapped out and 3 mountain shadows appeared, crashing onto Zhang Qi's long sword. The sword intent in his body surged and exploded in an instant. Shio! A cold light flashed and disappeared in a flash. The armor on Zhang Qi's chest was shattered, and he flew out with a terrifying sword mark on his chest. What was that? What a terrifying feeling. What kind of power was that? Everyone was confused and looked at Lin Xian in horror. Brother Qi. The Tsang family disciples rushed forward and saved Tong Qi. They looked at Lin Xian with fear. 2 of the Tsang family's outstanding disciples were injured by this young man. And this young man was only at the second sky of the spiritual ocean realm. No one would believe this, but it really happened in front of their eyes. Kid, what's your name? Zhang Qi covered his wound and said with hatred, Cloud Prefecture, Lin Xian. Lin Xian, I'll remember it. Let's go. Zhang Qi swallowed a pill and wrapped his wound with spirit energy before leaving with the help of the others. Brother Lin, you're so cool. Tong Yu's eyes sparkled. To the side, Tong Lan also cupped his hands together and said, Brother Lin, I never imagined that your swordsmanship would be so superb. Looks like the cloud plane isn't like the rumors. Lin Xian smiled and left the mountain with the others. After Lin Xian and the others left, the originally quiet forest once again became restless. A green-haired man came to the entrance of the cave. He sensed the aura in the surroundings and revealed an evil smile. His body flashed and disappeared into the air. Guangning City was a big city in Qingzhou. It was far more developed than the cities in Yunzhou. There were all kinds of martial arts instruments. Not only that, but there were also array masters, pill masters, and many other senior experts. Lin Xian was moved. Maybe he could find a suitable treasured sword here. He planned to settle down and go to the Myriad Treasure Tower to take a look. The Tong family was also a big family in Guangning City. They occupied a part of the city and had a row of majestic palaces. Uncle Chung, we're back. Tong Yu saw a gray-robed old man and ran over happily. Look, what is this? She excitedly took out the black flower. Ink spirit flower. The gray-robed old man called Uncle Chung was surprised. You guys sneaked into the forest. Are you injured? No, thanks to Brother Lin. Tong Yu shook the gray-robed old man's arm and said, Brother Lin? The gray-robed old man lifted his head and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. All the muscles in his body tightened. He had a feeling that he was seen through. This old man is terrifying. Lin Xian was fearful. In his mind, the great dragon sword seal vibrated and released a force to eliminate the palpitating feeling. The gray-robed old man was also surprised. He had a high cultivation level and had used a secret technique to check on Lin Xian. He did not expect to find nothing. Interesting young man. The gray-robed old man looked at Lin Xian a few more times. Greetings, uncle. Lin Xian cupped his hands and greeted. On the side, Tong Lan said to the gray-robed old man, Uncle Chung, this young hero Lin is from the Cloud region. He passed by the forest and saved us. Cloud region? The gray-robed old man had a trace of vigilance in his eyes, but he did not show it. Thank you for your help. Lan bring young hero Lin to rest. Tong Lan nodded. Brother Lin, this way please. With that, he brought Lin Xian to the other side. Tong Lan brought Lin Xian to an exquisite courtyard. After chatting for a while, they left. Lin Xian entered the room and used his soul power to observe carefully. Only then did he relax. He had to be careful when he was outside. Moreover, he saw a trace of vigilance in the gray-robed old man's eyes. This made his heart tremble. After resting for a while, Lin Xian took out a pouch. He was slightly dazed. He could still hear the moving voice in his ears. Sky Marshal Region, Flying Sky Pavilion. Lin Xian realized that he knew too little about this world. At the very least, he had never heard of the Sky Marshal Region. Xiao Xuanzi, don't think about it. Lord Alcohol's voice sounded. You can't go to the Sky Marshal Region with your current strength. Wait until you are stronger. Lord Alcohol, where is the Sky Marshal Region? Is it very far? Lin Xian was unwilling to give up. The Xia country you live in belongs to the Tianan region, located at the border of the continent. The Sky Marshal region is in the center of the continent. Its strength far surpasses the Tianan region. That child's identity is probably not ordinary. If you want to find her, you have to at least reach the spirit realm. The world is so big. Lin Xian sighed. Right now, he really felt like a frog at the bottom of a well. After entering my family's ancestral land, I must go out and train. Lin Xian made up his mind. It's not that I want to put you down. With your current strength and foundation, you can dominate the Xia country in a few years. But once you leave the Xia country, you are nothing. Lord Alcohol said mercilessly. Lin Xian was stunned. He was unconvinced. Is there such a huge difference? He now had the Wind Thearchus sword, the Great Dragon Sword Seal, and had comprehended sword intent. He was very confident, so he obviously didn't agree with Lord Alcohol. Think about that girl. She is about the same age as you and has already entered the spirit realm. If it wasn't for the suppression of cultivation in the trial of blood, brats like you wouldn't even be a match for her. Lord Alcohol snorted coldly. Lin Xian calmed down. Lord Alcohol was right. In terms of cultivation, he was far inferior to Shen Jingqiu. Could it be that the people of the Sky Marshal region were also abnormal? He realized that he still had a long way to go. If you want to become stronger, you need resources in addition to talent. Otherwise, by the time you reach the spirit realm, she would have already entered a higher realm. I want to become stronger. Lin Xian didn't want to continue like this. He wanted to stand at the peak of the world and enjoy the beautiful scenery. You can't become stronger just by shouting. I've said it before. With your current foundation, you can only dominate the Xia country in a few years. Then what should I do? Lin Xian asked. The Great Dragon Sword can make you an expert and fulfill your dreams, Lord Alcohol said. Lin Xian's eyes flashed as he recalled the legend of the Great Dragon Sword. Rather than calling the Great Dragon Sword a divine sword, it's more like an offensive sacred art. With the Great Dragon Sword, you will have the chance to become the strongest in the world. Furthermore, you have the Great Dragon Sword Seal, so you have a great advantage over others. Chapter 150. But where is the Great Dragon Sword? Lin Xian was puzzled. There's no rush. It's fine as long as you have the intention. After your family's matter is settled, we will look for it. Lord Alcohol smiled mysteriously. Lin Xian calmed down. He knew that this matter couldn't be rushed. He had to take it one step at a time. Don't worry. I will definitely find the Great Dragon Sword. Lin Xian's voice was firm. Lord Alcohol smiled in satisfaction. Now, focus on increasing your strength. Your soul power should be enough to learn inscriptions. Inscriptions? Lin Xian was delighted. He had seen the power of inscriptions. Be it the spirit wine or the bronze gloves, they had extraordinary effects. First, form the soul seal, Lord Alcohol said. With the Great Dragon Sword Seal, it should be easier for you to condense it. Set up the room. Don't be disturbed during the process. Following Lord Alcohol's instructions, Lin Xian took out the Crimson Flame Sword and stabbed it into the ground. Activate the second rune on it, Lord Alcohol instructed. Lin Xian found the second rune and his soul power slowly surged out. The first rune can produce 10 times the gravity. What's the effect of the second rune? He was looking forward to it. Buzz. The rune was activated, producing a halo that rapidly spread out. The dense ripples formed a sword-shaped pattern that hit on the ground and disappeared. Lin Xian felt an inexplicable force protecting him, preventing him from being disturbed. Empty your mind and condense your soul power according to my instructions, Lord Alcohol said in a deep voice. Lin Xian closed his eyes and began to condense his first soul seal. Outside, in the Tong family, Uncle Chong told the elders of the clan about the ink spirit flower. After hearing the news, the elders were excited. With the ink spirit flower and the things we have prepared, Master Hong will take action, right? As long as he takes action, Qian Er's injuries will definitely be healed. Let's begin the preparations, the patriarch of the Tong family said in a deep voice. While the elders were discussing, Tong Lan, Tong Yu, and the rest of the younger generation were cheering. Brother Qin's injury will definitely be healed. Tong Yu waved her little fist. That's right. If Brother Qin wasn't injured, I'm afraid he would already be in the top 50 of the Hidden Dragon Roll. Tong Lan's eyes revealed a trace of excitement. Tong Chun was the #1 genius of the Tong family. He was 20 years old and ranked 68th on the Hidden Dragon rank. He had a bright future ahead of him. But half a year ago, this genius of the Tong clan was assassinated. Not only was he heavily injured and almost died, he was also poisoned. This poison was extremely overbearing. The elders of the Tong clan could only stabilize the poison and were unable to completely remove it. And the one who had this ability was Master Hong in the city. Master Hong was a level 1 inscription master, and the pills he refined were exceptionally precious. It could be said that they were hard to find even with money. Furthermore, the conditions for him to make a move were extremely harsh. Now, the Tong family finally gathered everything and could invite Grandmaster Hong. Just as everyone was celebrating, a group of uninvited guests came to the Tong residence. Tong Lan and that Lin brat, get the hell out here. A loud roar reverberated through almost half of the Tong residence. One could imagine how strong the person's spiritual energy was. Who is it? Many disciples of the Tong clan had a drastic change in expression as they ran outside. The Tong clan was considered a force in Guangning City. Usually, no one dared to behave atrociously. Now, this clamor had angered the Tong clan. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures ran out. Most of them were from the younger generation. Tong Lan and Tong Yu also followed the crowd. Bang! With a loud bang, a disciple of the Tong clan retreated with a pale face. What happened? Tong Lan supported the disciple who was retreating. Brother Lan, you're finally here. The Tsang clan is here to cause trouble. A group of disciples of the Tong clan chattered furiously. It turned out that after they came out, they realized that the clamor was from the Tsang clan. The two clans were originally not on good terms, so they fought as soon as they met. But this time, the Tsang clan sent their elites. They were not people that ordinary disciples could deal with. Tong Lan, you're finally here. Where's that brat? The Tsang clan was extremely arrogant. Hand over that Lin brat and the ink spirit flower, and this matter will be over. Otherwise, the Tong clan will be in trouble. Song Yuan, I'm afraid you're not qualified. Tong Lan said coldly. Is that so? What if I'm included? A cold-looking young man walked out from the Tsang clan. He had a playful look on his face as he looked at the Tong clan members casually. Song Lei, it's you. Tong Lan's pupils shrank. There was a hint of seriousness in his voice. Song Lei was also a martial artist in the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon Roll. His ranking was even higher than Tsang Qi's. He was ranked 74th. It could be said that he was the second most powerful person in the Tsang clan. In terms of the younger generation, the Qing prefecture strength was much higher than the Yun prefecture. For example, Zhang Jun and the others who were ranked high in the Yun prefecture were nothing here. After all, Zhang Jun was only ranked in the 90s. He was far from being a match for Tsang Lei and Tong Lan. Tong Lan, hand him over. You're not my match. Song Lei had a playful look on his face. Brother Lin is our savior. If you want him, you'll have to go through me first. Tong Lan drew his sword and his aura became fierce. Haha, sword force? It's useless against me. Song Lei was very powerful. He stomped his feet and the ground cracked. The aura on his body erupted like a volcano. Blue electric arcs wrapped around his body. In terms of cultivation, you're not my match. In terms of aura, my lightning fist's force is much stronger than your sword force. What are you going to use to fight me? Cut the crap. Tong Lan's face darkened as he thrust his sword forward. The sword chi was like a rainbow as it slashed towards Song Lei. Thunder Tyrant Fist, Song Lei shouted. The blue electric arcs on his body jumped and surged to his fist. He threw out a punch that was like a thunderbolt. The electric arcs flashed and flowed in all directions. Ka, ka. The sword chi that was dozens of feet long was shattered by the punch. The scene was shocking and frightening. Traceless flowing water. Tong Lan wasn't angry that his attack didn't hit. His sword swayed and his sword technique changed. The sword shadows were continuous and covered the sky. It was like a surging river that was mighty and endless. Break. Song Lei sneered and threw out a punch. The sword radiance flashed and formed a light screen in the sky. It was like a waterfall that hung upside down and blocked the lightning fist. Thunderbolt explosion. The blue electric arcs on his fist exploded and collided with the light screen, causing thousands of ripples. Rumble. A terrifying aura spread out like water waves. Everyone retreated. Some of the weaker disciples turned pale and felt uncomfortable. Whoosh. Tong Lan landed on the ground and retreated a dozen steps before she could stabilize her body. Song Lei stood proudly opposite him with a disdainful expression. Tong Lan, I've already given you enough face. If you don't hand him over, don't blame me for being rude. The disciples of the Tsang family clamored while the Tong family was silent. Tong Lan had lost, and they were upset. In the distance, a group of elders looked out of the door and sighed. Sigh, Tong Lan is still lacking. If only Tong Chun was here. The Tsang family wouldn't dare to be so presumptuous. Tong Chin's injury is definitely related to the Tsang family. After Chen recovers, we'll settle the score with them. An elder snorted. What's with the Lin family that they mentioned? The Tong family head asked in a deep voice. Tong Lan and the others met him in the forest. I heard that he saved Tong Lan and the others, Uncle Chung said respectfully. Oh. The elders were confused. They didn't know that Tong Lan and the others were in danger. Chapter 151. Tell me in detail, the Tong family head said in a low voice. Uncle Chung told them everything he knew. When the elders heard that the Tsang family disciple made a move, they were all furious. You're saying that this youth called Lin Xian not only killed a Tier 4 beast, but also heavily injured Song Ji and Song Qi? He's really in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier? Impossible. How could such a genius appear in a backward place like Cloud Prefecture? The elders obviously didn't believe it, because this wasn't something a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier could do. Don't jump to conclusions. The Tong family head said in a low voice. Although he was born in Cloud Prefecture, he might have a powerful master. Master? What kind of master could there be in Cloud Prefecture? Some elders were disdainful. He might not be from Cloud Prefecture. The Tong family head said, some masters like to wander around, so it's not impossible for them to go to Cloud Prefecture. Ask Lin Xin to come out. The Tong family head said. Uncle Cheng's body flashed, turning into a ray of light and dashing towards the inner court. The elders stood where they were, and many of them snorted inwardly. I'd like to see what kind of youth he is, boasting so much. With Uncle Cheng's skills, it didn't take long for him to arrive at Lin Xian's residence. Uncle Cheng was surprised as he felt a special presence in the room. He took a few steps forward and pushed the door open, only to find another force blocking him. A ray? Uncle Cheng was even more surprised. He didn't expect a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier to have such a brilliant array. Could he really have a master behind him? Uncle Cheng hesitated, not daring to make a move. With a defensive array, the person inside must be cultivating. If he made a move, he might disturb Lin Xian, and cause him to suffer a backlash. If it was before, a backlash would be nothing. In front of the family's crisis, the sacrifice of a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier was nothing. However, there might be an old monster behind Lin Xian now, and if he offended him, it might bring great danger to the family. I'd better leave this kind of danger to the Tsang family. Uncle Chung retreated, planning to leave. Creak. Just as he was about to leave, the door opened. Young hero Lin. Uncle Chung shouted in shock as he turned around. Lin Xian cupped his hands and smiled. He had just completed the soul seal when he sensed Uncle Cheng's presence. Thus, he walked out. May I know why Senior is looking for me? Lin Xian asked. Uncle Chung looked at the young man in front of him and exclaimed in his heart. He could no longer see through this young man. Just yesterday, he had been able to sense Lin Xian's cultivation and aura through a secret technique. But now, he couldn't detect any information. Lin Xian sensed Uncle Cheng's probing and smiled faintly, not saying anything. After condensing the soul seal, his soul power had improved again. He had reached the level of a first-grade inscription master. As long as he was willing, ordinary people would not be able to see any information about him. Unless the other party also cultivated soul force, or if the other party's cultivation level was far higher than his, they would not be able to see it. With a thought, Lin Xian displayed the cultivation of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Sensing the change in Lin Xian's body, Uncle Chung took a deep breath and said, "The family head invites you over." Me? Lin Xian was slightly dazed. "It's about the Tsang family," Uncle Chung explained. Lin Xian nodded. He followed behind Uncle Chung and used his soul power to scan the surroundings. When he was halfway there, he sensed something outside the door. Instantly, his expression changed. Uncle Chung, Tong Lan and the others are in danger. After Lin Xian said this, his body flashed, and he quickly left. Martial artists in the spiritual ocean tier did not cultivate soul force. Only those like Lin Xian who cultivated inscriptions would be able to do so. After entering the 3 spirit realms, martial artists would start to cultivate soul force. However, without special methods, soul force would not be especially powerful. Moreover, as Lin Xian's cultivation and vision widened, he had a deeper understanding of martial artists. For example, although Uncle Cheng's aura was powerful, he was still in the spiritual ocean tier and had not entered the 3 spirit realms. Even Black Sky Sect had many elders who had not entered the 3 spirit realms. Only a small number of people had entered the 3 spirit realms. Uncle Chung could not sense the situation outside, so he could only follow behind Lin Xian. Outside the Tong family, Tong Lan retreated again with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. "Haha, you're really trash." Songlei laughed. "No one in your Tong family can fight." "Humph, if Brother Chen was here, you wouldn't have the chance to be so presumptuous." Tong Yu supported Tong Lan and said angrily, "Tong Chen? He's just a poison trash." Song Lei laughed wildly. "Even if he's fine now, he's no match for my brother." "Nonsense," Tong Yu shouted. "If Brother Chen wasn't injured, your brother would definitely be looking for his teeth on the ground. You're courting death." Song Lei was furious and threw out a punch. His brother Tsang Bao and Tong Chun were known as the 2 heroes of Guangning City, but Tong Chun was always better than his brother. Ever since Tong Chun was injured, his brother's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, and he became the #1 in the younger generation of Guangning City. And now, the Tong family used that sick person to suppress his brother. How could he not be angry? Whoosh! This punch was accompanied by berserk lightning as it came crashing down with a loud bang. Tong Yu's cultivation was at the 2nd level of the spiritual sea realm and could not resist at all. Tong Lan, who was at the side, suffered internal injuries and could not take this violent punch. The disciples of the Tsang family crossed their arms and sneered, while the disciples of the Tong family were anxious. Some of the weaker ones even covered their eyes. In the distance, the elders of the Tong family who were watching secretly changed their expressions. Some of them could not help but want to make a move. At this moment, a golden light appeared in front of everyone and rushed towards the thunder and lightning fist. Boom! With a loud bang, thunder and lightning surged out and crackled. The blue energy swept out in all directions at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everywhere it passed, it was scorched black. Crackle, crackle. Tong Yu covered her mouth with a shocked expression. Tong Lan, who was at the side, was pressed down by a hand. He did not need to make a move because someone was standing in front of him. Brother Lin, Tong Lan cried out in surprise. The disciples of the Tong family opened their eyes, while the disciples of the Tsang family in the distance were in a mess. Song Lei's pupils shrank. The power of his punch was broken, and the thunder and lightning did not have any effect at all. This was something that had never happened since he started cultivating. In front of him, a hand cut his wrist, and the power of his punch landed on the ground beside him. There was a big black hole there, and the bottom could not be seen. Song Lei raised his head and saw a handsome young man looking at him with a faint smile. "Who are you?" Song Lei gritted his teeth and asked. "Lin Xian." The voice was very calm. "What? You are Lin Xian?" Song Lei was shocked. He looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief. In his opinion, someone who could defeat Song Qi and the others must be an old man. However, the person in front of him was very young, and his cultivation was only at the second level of the spiritual sea realm. Chapter 152. Lin Xian's appearance shocked everyone, especially the Tsang family disciples, who were all dumbfounded. Song Lei felt Lin Xian's cultivation, and a ball of anger ignited in his heart. When did the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier become so powerful? Or did this kid hide his cultivation? He didn't know, but he couldn't lose to a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. If so, he wouldn't be able to survive in Guangning City anymore. Thunder explosion. Song Lei suddenly attacked, and powerful thunder and lightning surged out of his body, covering everything nearby. Rumble. Within 3 zhong, it turned into a sea of thunder and lightning. Luckily, the other disciples ran fast, or else they would be in trouble. Tong Yu and Tong Lan were pushed out by Lin Xian with spiritual power and landed far away. Crack. Blue thunder and lightning instantly covered Lin Xian and Song Lei. How could they not die after being pierced by this thunder and lightning? Seeing this, the Tsang family disciples all breathed a sigh of relief and became arrogant again. In the sea of thunder, Song Lei was bathed in thunder and lightning, like a thunder god. He looked down at Lin Xian and said with disdain, "The defense of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier can't block my sea of thunder. Die." The thunder and lightning exploded, forming a terrifying ball of energy. The spiritual power of a normal martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier couldn't form a thick spiritual power armor. But Lin Xian cultivated the art of long life, and the spiritual power in his body was much purer than a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. He was even stronger than a normal martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This was the benefit of a high-level cultivation method, and this benefit would become more obvious as the cultivation increased. On the other hand, Lin Xian had golden thunder and lightning in his body, which was of higher quality than the blue thunder and lightning. Playing with thunder and lightning in front of him was like showing off in front of an expert. Everyone looked at the sea of thunder anxiously. They couldn't go forward with such terrifying energy. They could only wait anxiously. Among them, the most anxious were Tong Yu and Tong Lan. Lin Xian had saved them more than once, and they couldn't repay this kindness, so they could only pray secretly. In the distance, the elder of the Tong family looked at the blue sea of thunder and frowned. "I'm afraid that little brat won't be able to withstand such power." Most of these elders were peak spirit sea realm experts, and some of them had even reached half-step harmonious spirit realm. However, only the head of the Tong family had reached the harmonious spirit realm. His eyes were like 2 beams of divine light, as if they could see through everything. "No, he's still alive," the head of the Tong clan said in a deep voice. "What?" The group of elders were shocked and looked into the distance in disbelief. However, they hadn't reached the harmonious spirit realm, so they couldn't see what was going on inside. A moment later, the sea of lightning dissipated and everything became clear. A terrifying black hole appeared on the ground, and black smoke rose from its edges. There was also a terrifying aura flowing above it. What? Song Lei was the first to hand it over. He was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, barking crazily. Everyone looked over anxiously, wanting to know what had happened. He saw two people standing on the charred ground in front of him, completely unharmed. Song Lei looked horrified as if he had seen a ghost. On the other hand, Lin Xian stood there with a smile on his face, as if he hadn't experienced the sea of lightning. How is this possible? He's completely fine? That's lightning, one of the most powerful forces. The disciples of the Tsang clan felt dizzy and couldn't stand steadily. It's fine if Lei is fine. After all, he was the one who released the lightning. But that kid with the surname Lin is also fine. They can't accept it. What the F***ck? What the F***ck? The people of the Tong clan exclaimed. The elders looked at each other in confusion. They looked at the Tong clan. Only the Tong clan knew what had happened. The head of the Tong clan took a deep breath and said slowly, he's also a lightning element warrior, and the quality of his lightning is higher than Song Lei's. Hiss! All the elders sucked in a breath of cold air. Who was Song Lei? He was the number 2 of the younger generation of the Tsang clan, the elite of Guangning City. Not only was his cultivation base powerful, but he also had the powerful Tsang clan behind him. As far as they knew, Song Lei was cultivating a spirit rank martial art, and it was a classic lightning element martial art, Thunder Tyrant Fist. There was only one martial art of this level in the Tong clan, and only the head of the Tong clan could cultivate it. One could imagine how precious it was. However, the young man with the surname Lin was able to suppress Song Lei in terms of lightning. It was unbelievable. Impossible. Song Lei roared. He knew the power of the Thunder Tyrant Fist. However, the young man in front of him was fine. Thunderbolt Firmament. Blue lightning pierced through his body and condensed into a thunderbird. It spread its wings and charged at Lin Xian. Triple Mountain Suppressing Hand. Lin Xian struck out with both hands, and the shadow of a mountain appeared on his palms. The two palms overlapped, and 6 mountains appeared in the air. Moreover, there were golden lightning arcs circling around the mountains, emitting a power that made one's heart palpitate. Roar! The blue thunderbird saw the golden lightning and let out a trembling cry. Go! Lin Xian struck out with both palms, and it was as if a giant mountain was pressing down. Golden lightning! Song Lei almost bit his tongue. He felt the lightning in his body roaring and trembling. Boom! 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 The blue thunderbird let out a miserable cry and was shattered by the 6 mountains, turning into nothingness. Song Lei's face paled, and he took a few steps back. He knew that he couldn't take Lin Xian away today. The latter's lightning was of a higher grade than his. He couldn't accept it for a while. I'll be at a disadvantage if I stay here. Song Lei's eyes flashed, and he made a prompt decision. Kid, I'll remember you. We'll fight again in the future. Song Lei snorted coldly, then left with the Tsang family disciples. The Tong family disciples were a little dazed, not daring to believe the reality in front of them. The Tsang family members came aggressively, but were chased away by a young man in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This situation was like a dream, too unreal. In the distance, the few elders of the Tong clan also sighed heavily. What do you think? The Tong family had asked. Strong. Although his cultivation is low, his power is super strong. I estimate that he can be ranked 70 or so on the Hidden Dragon roll. Not necessarily. He only used lightning to suppress Song Lei. His real power is definitely not as strong as Song Lei. There were also elders who disagreed. However, no matter what, Lin Xian's performance shocked them. Brother Lin. Tong Lan clutched her chest and walked over, her face pale, not knowing what to say. On the side, Tong Yu's face was red, unusually excited. Big Brother Lin, you're so strong. Uncle Chung. Tong Lan turned around and saw the gray-robed old man walking over. Young Hero Lin, the family head invites you, Uncle Chung said with a smile. Senior, please. Lin Xian didn't put on airs, but was very humble, appearing very polite. Uncle Chung smiled and led the way, while Lin Xian and the others followed behind. Lin Xian's expression was relaxed, and he walked with a smile. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his back, and all the muscles in his body tightened. After cultivating the soul mark, his senses were very sensitive, far surpassing normal martial artists. But now, his whole body was stiff, as if he was in great danger, but he couldn't find the source of the danger. He used all his soul power, and the great dragon sword mark rumbled in his mind, and a warm current instantly flowed through his body. Under his all-out investigation, he finally found the source of the danger. Lin Xian subconsciously turned around and looked into the distance. In the next moment, his expression changed greatly. Chapter 153. Lin Xian's gaze pierced through the crowd and looked behind him. In the corner, there was a green-haired man with a sneer on his face. His eyes were glowing with a faint green light. Although Lin Xian had never seen this person before, he was very familiar with his aura. The green-haired man's aura was the same as the aura of the bronze coffin at the bottom of the blood-colored palace. Could it be that the person in the coffin is alive? Lin Xian's expression was uncertain. "Brother Lin, what's wrong?" Tong Yu asked. "Nothing." Lin Xian regained his composure. When he turned around again, he realized that the green-haired man was gone. Suppressing his doubts, he followed the crowd into the Tong residence. There was a group of elders in front of him. Most of them were looking at him. "Greetings, seniors." Lin Xian bowed. "The younger generation will surpass us in time. May I know where young hero Lin is from?" An elder asked. "Yun State's Black Heaven sect," Lin Xian replied. The elders looked at each other in disbelief, but they did not expose him. "Thank you for your help today, young hero Lin." Lin Xian chatted with the elders of the Tong family. He realized that the elders were trying to find out his identity from time to time. However, Lin Xian insisted that he was a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, so they could do nothing about it. In the end, they could not get any more information out of him, so they let Lin Xian go. Phew! Lin Xian returned to his room and heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that the Tong family wanted to establish a relationship with the mysterious master behind him. He did have a mysterious master, but that was his secret. He would never let anyone know about it. However, that was not what he was worried about. What he was most worried about was the green-haired man. His greedy gaze made his hair stand on end. "Lord Alcohol, what was that?" Lin Xian asked. It didn't look like a living thing. The death aura on him was very strong. "It's best if you don't fight him with your current strength." Lin Xian nodded and began to consolidate his strength. Especially since he had just condensed a soul seal, he was still not very familiar with it. Your soul mark is formed with the great dragon sword mark as the foundation. It has great potential and needs to be nurtured well, Lord Alcohol said slowly. "I'll teach you some simple inscriptions first." Lin Xian focused and carefully felt the inscriptions imparted by Lord Alcohol. After a while, his soul surged. He gently lifted his finger and slowly put it down. A simple rune appeared in the air, and the surrounding spiritual energy rushed towards it. It was just 3 simple strokes, but they contained a mysterious power. Lin Xian practiced over and over again. Bright spots appeared in the air one after another, forming countless vortexes of spirit energy. In the end, he was finally able to draw it in one go. Although it was just 3 simple lines, they contained the profound principles of heaven and earth. Ordinary people could not draw it at all. This was an introductory practice for an inscription master. An ordinary inscription would take 1 or 2 months to successfully complete, but Lin Xian had only used a few hours to smoothly complete it. This kind of talent could be said to be abnormal. Lin Xian opened his eyes and frowned slightly. Using his soul power for a long period of time had made him dizzy. Rubbing his forehead, Lin Xian took out a cup of spirit wine and slowly drank it. His soul power needed about 2 hours to fully recover. During this time, Lin Xian cultivated the longevity art. A day passed quickly. The next day, Lin Xian pushed open the door and went out. He wanted to buy some herbs and begin learning how to refine spirit wine. He also wanted to see if there were any good weapons. He had about 100 middle-grade spirit stones, 3 boxes of inferior-grade spirit stones, and a profound-ranked saber on him. This amount of wealth was indeed pitifully small. Fortunately, Lin Xian's early cultivation relied on the spirit wine refined by Lord Alcohol, so there was not much danger. However, as his cultivation increased, he would need more and more resources. Otherwise, he would definitely fall behind the disciples of the large sections. When he learned how to refine spirit wine, he would be able to earn money. Lin Xian was not worried about the future. In fact, he was filled with anticipation. He shuttled through the corridor with a leisurely expression. There seemed to be many people in front of him. Is the Tsang family looking for trouble again? Lin Xian was puzzled. However, he soon discovered that it was not the case. Instead, a group of people were surrounding an old man and walking towards the inner court. Lin Xian was curious. He felt a familiar soul fluctuation from the old man in embroidered clothes. Could it be an inscription master? His heart skipped a beat. He did not expect to see someone of the same profession so soon. It's indeed an inscription master, said Lord Alcohol. A peak first grade is far from what a dabbler like you can compare to. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. I only learned it for one night. Lin Xian looked around and walked over. Uncle Chang, he called out with a smile. So it's young hero Lin. Uncle Chang turned to look at Lin Xian from behind the crowd. Who's that senior? Lin Xian looked curious. That's Master Hong, an inscription master, Uncle Chang explained, but he did not elaborate further. Inscription master, Lin Xian muttered. Uncle Chang, I'll leave you to it. I'll go out for a walk. After bidding farewell to Uncle Chang, Lin Xian left Tong Manor and walked along the street. Are there many types of inscription masters and inscription masters? Lin Xian asked Lord Alcohol with a voice transmission. In the beginning, there were no differences. However, most people have limited energy, so it's impossible to master all of them. Therefore, there are different branches. They are generally divided into medicine, artifact, and array. Among them, medicine is the most developed and forms the most complete system. Lin Xian listened to Lord Alcohol's explanation as he walked quickly. He learned that inscription masters and inscription masters were the titles given to people who had condensed a soul seal. As for those who had not condensed a soul seal, they were called alchemists, blacksmiths, or artificers. Although there was only a difference of one word, the difference in status and strength between the two was like heaven and earth. Not long after, he arrived at the bustling area of the city. Among them, the largest and most populated one was the tens of thousands treasure tower. This was a huge business alliance that had businesses in all the states of China. Although it was a little expensive, it had a reliable reputation. Lin Xian handed over 10 inferior-grade spirit stones and walked in. The hall was resplendent with people coming and going. The atmosphere was very lively. Lin Xian began to buy herbs according to Lord Alcohol's list. He had just started cultivating, so the herbs he needed weren't very precious. Therefore, it wasn't troublesome to buy them. Soon, he collected everything. Yeah, what's this? Lin Xian couldn't help but take a few more glances at the exquisite booklet on the cabinet. Hidden Dragon Roll. The 3 words inlaid in gold were flamboyant and flamboyant. They faintly emitted a fighting spirit. You can only read this after purchasing it. A gentle voice sounded. Lin Xian looked up and saw a beautiful maidservant standing behind the cabinet. One set, Lin Xian said. All right, 50 inferior-grade spirit stones, the maidservant said. Lin Xian was speechless. He didn't expect a roster to be so expensive. It really didn't make any sense. He handed over the spirit stones, picked up a book, and slowly opened it. There were a total of 100 young elites recorded in it. There were annotations beside each name. The battle records and the ultimate techniques that the warriors were good at were rather detailed. I didn't expect someone to be able to collect such complete information. It's really extraordinary. Lin Xian praised. If what was written was true, then the person who wrote this book was truly impressive. This was written by the Heaven Secrets Pavilion. Don't tell me you don't know. A disdainful voice sounded from the side. Chapter 154. Lin Xian indeed did not know. He shook his head and looked to the side. Not far away from him stood a few men and women. Judging from their attire, they should be disciples of a sect. Among them, a young lady had a graceful figure and a pretty face. However, there was a hint of arrogance in her expression. Sensing Lin Xian's gaze, the young lady lifted her chin and snorted. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before? Lin Xin sighed in his heart. The young lady's innate sense of superiority made him uncomfortable. I really haven't seen a beauty, Lin Xin said plainly. You. The young lady was furious. She glared at Lin Xin fiercely. This kid dared to say that she wasn't a beauty. If it wasn't for the fact that the 1,000 Treasure Tower forbade fighting, she would have beaten this despicable kid to the ground. Kid, what are you saying? What's with that look? The few people behind the young lady couldn't stand it anymore and shouted coldly. Shut up. One of the young men shouted. He took a step forward and cupped his fists. Brother, please don't be offended. They haven't left the mountain much and are a little straightforward. This young man was cultured and elegant. He looked like a spring breeze, making it hard for one to dislike him. It's fine. Lin Xin smiled. He wouldn't be bothered by such trivial matters. We are disciples of the White Feather sect. My name is Wensu. How should I address you? The young man smiled. Lin Xin, disciple of the Cloud State. Cloud State? The few disciples of the White Feather sect had a strange expression. The young lady among them sneered. Tisk, just disciples of a first-grade sect. The 3 sects of the Cloud State were first-grade sects, which was slightly lower in Xia country. The White Feather sect was a second-grade sect of the Green State and was extremely powerful. When Su turned around and glared at the young lady, he then smiled apologetically. So it's Brother Lin. Nice to meet you. I wonder what kind of existence the Divine Mysteries Pavilion is. Lin Xin asked. The origin of the Divine Mysteries Pavilion is mysterious. However, everything they do is extremely accurate. Take the Hidden Dragon leaderboard, for example. There were people who weren't convinced by the rankings and went to challenge them. The results proved that the rankings on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard were correct. So miraculous? Lin Xin was greatly surprised. But you're losing out by buying this Hidden Dragon leaderboard now, Wensu said. Why? On the 15th of every month, a new version of the Hidden Dragon ranking will be printed, and the rankings on it will also change. Today is the 13th. There will be new ones in 2 days. Will the rankings change a lot? Lin Xin casually flipped through the book. Of course I will. The girl at the back snorted. Our senior brother went from the 53rd place to the 47th place this month. Lin Xin didn't mind the girl's tone. Instead, he nodded slightly. It seemed like the competition for the rankings was very intense. He then looked at Lin Feng, who was ranked 5th. I wonder if this fellow's ranking will change? As if sensing the change in Lin Xin, Wensu said, the change in the rankings this time should be quite big. It's said that Lin Feng, ranked 5th, broke through again and reached the 6th celestial layer of spiritual ocean. A few days ago, he fought against Jin Lai Tian, ranked 3rd. But no one knows what the result is. The other change is Long Yidao from the Snow-Seeking sect. He directly went from the 21st place to the 8th place. His strength is amazing. The Snow-Seeking sect can be said to have double happiness. Lin Xin slowly exhaled. It seemed that not only was he improving, but everyone was also improving. What else is there to celebrate in the Snow-Seeking sect? Lin Xin asked casually. He didn't think much about it. You don't know? They all looked strange. Lin Xin touched his nose. I just came out of the mountains. The Snow-Seeking sect has been promoted to a 3rd-rank sect. They will hold a celebration next month. At that time, all the sects and families will go. 3rd-rank sect. Lin Xin's pupil shrank slightly. 3rd-rank sects were already the most powerful forces in the Xia. They had peerless masters in the spirit transformation realm behind them. It could be said that no one dared to bully them. It seems that the Xin Tian sect will also go to the Snow Province. Lin Xin thought. He originally wanted to go back to the Xin Tian sect, but now it seemed that he only needed to go to the Snow Province. Maybe I'll meet people from my family. Lin Xin sighed. As one of the top forces in the Xia, the Swordpool Mansion would definitely send people there. I have to leave in advance. He wanted to go to the Snow Province to inquire about the news. It was Lin Feng's idea to drive him out of the Swordpool Mansion. At that time, the situation was special. His grandfather was in seclusion and his father was trapped in a dangerous place. Although there were other people in his family, without the 2 main forces, they couldn't compete with Lin Feng's family. I don't know how grandfather is. He was nervous. And father, with the improvement of Lin Xian's cultivation and vision, he increasingly felt that his father was not dead. The answer to all this should be in the ancestral land of the family. Before his father left, he had mentioned the ancestral land more than once and asked Lin Xian to go there. One more year. Lin Xian secretly clenched his fists. The ancestral land of the family would open in a year, and he had to go in. After saying goodbye to Wen Su, Lin Xian walked back. Brother One, he's just a country bumpkin. Why do you care about him? The arrogant girl said unhappily. You guys, behave yourselves when you're outside. Wen Su lectured. This world is far more complicated than you can imagine. Some seemingly weak people could very well take your lives. Although Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the second level of the spiritual sea realm, Wen Su intuitively felt the horror of Lin Xian's body. This was something he couldn't explain, but this feeling had saved his life. However, the girl and the others behind him obviously didn't believe him. They all had disdainful smiles on their faces. He shook his head, sighed, and ignored them. When Lin Xian returned to the Tong Mansion, Master Hong had already left. However, the people in the Tong Mansion were obviously much happier. Many of them had smiles on their faces. Lin Xian secretly used his soul power and eavesdropped on the conversations of others. He found out that the genius of the Tong Mansion was poisoned, but was cured by Master Hong. So that's how it is. Lin Xian understood and returned to his room. When night fell, he took out the crimson flame sword and activated the array on it to seal the room. Then, he took out the herbs he bought during the day from his storage ring and spread them on the table. Okay, today I'll teach you how to refine spirit wine. Lord Alcohol's voice sounded. Refining spirit wine requires 3 types of inscriptions. The first is the purification inscription, the second is the fusion inscription, and the third is the refinement inscription. As long as you master these 3 types of inscriptions, you'll be able to refine spirit wine. Lord Alcohol said with a voice transmission. However, spirit wines of different attributes require different inscriptions. Now, I'll teach you the simplest type. Lin Xian followed Lord Alcohol's instructions and began to draw in the air. Lin Xian saw the glowing lines flowing out, and gradually, a strange inscription appeared in the air. Lin Xian waved his hand and threw a stalk of spirit grass toward the inscription in the air. When the stalk of spirit grass came into contact with the inscription in the air, it began to disintegrate and soon formed a ball of liquid. The inscription slowly rotated, and some black impurities were removed. In the end, only a ball of liquid the size of a longan was left. It was crystal clear and floated in the air. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.